Welcome to episode 22 of the 10 Tabs Open podcast. This is your host, Alex Howell, and today we had back on the podcast Kory Gallagher. For those of you who don't know, I'll give you a quick rundown. Kory is currently the U.S. Social Science Freshman Class Co-Dean and the Weathercock Instructor for the Barstow School, which is one of the oldest private schools in the Kansas City area. He has also been an instructor at several private high schools and universities in Kansas City, too. He is currently completing his Ph.D. in American Cultural History from the University of Missouri in Columbia. And with everything going on in the news, as most of you probably know, with the situation with Iran, I thought it was going to be perfect to have Kory on just to talk about that and a lot of other things that we kind of get into as we normally do. But with everything going on with his history background and his ability to kind of explain things and, dumb it down for idiots like me, I thought it would be awesome to have him on to kind of explain the region, the history, and what we've been doing. We get into, political topics, social topics, all kinds of things. So sometimes you guys might find yourselves thinking, what the hell are they talking about? At other times you might learn a little something. But I hope you guys really enjoy. Kory's one of my favorite people to have on here. He's so easy to talk to. He brings a lot of knowledge with him. Just so you guys know, the 10 Tabs Open podcast is available at 10tabsopen.com as well as iTunes and Google Play. You can follow me at Alexander from KC on multiple platforms, including Instagram and Twitter, as well as Twitch. You may also follow me at our website at alexanderhowell.com, and if you need anything from me directly, just contact Alexander at alexanderhowell.com. Again, episode 22, Kory Gallagher. Hope you enjoy. Check the volume. The only negative is the furnace in this place it's a little loud, so sometimes we'll just hear. Yeah. So what's going on, man?
Oh, not much.
just World War III.
Just World War III. Getting ready to join up.
Yeah,
I don't want to get drafted.
I was really I guess I made it into my 30s and have too young of kids to get drafted. So
yeah, probably.
Yeah, and they've got drones now, so
probably.
I was going to go into the Air Force when I was a kid, and then because my grandfather, my mom's side did, and now I'm like, well, I'm almost 33. I don't think they're going to draft me.
Well, here I am approaching 40. When September 11th happened, a friend and I went to join up. And we were actually both rejected for medical reasons. Yeah, because, my back is all screwed up. So they were like, yeah, you can't do that. And I was like, I can do it. And they're like, yeah, no. Like, if your back goes out in the middle of something and everybody has to carry you, like, that's not okay.
It's like the wrong, lone survivor. It's like, I was a lone survivor. Why? Because all my buddies died helping me out.
Yeah, they left me behind. Turned out that was Kory. Better.
Yeah, man. This whole thing has been weird. From the very beginning. I don't know what's going. I mean, obviously, you never really know what's going on, but ever since we pulled out of. And basically caused genocide of the Kurds.
Sure, yeah.
And since that moment, shit has just been weird. Then, what was it? China, Russia, and Iran do exercises together.
Yeah.
And then they storm our embassy.
Right.
And then we kill their guy.
Yeah.
It's we keep, poking each other. Hey, what are we going to do?
Yeah. And it seems like the real big problem here is that I think the things that other countries are doing are specifically designed to elicit responses from us.
Yeah.
And I think they have a good idea of how we will respond.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we're just sort of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that we really necessarily have a strategy. Trump hasn't come out and said, well, we killed dude and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
And
he said, we killed dude.
Here's what we're going to do from here.
Yeah.
You don't want to go into too much depth, right? Obviously, but it's kind of well, what was the plan there? Mm-hmm. Because, Iran's going to respond.
Right.
Right. And Iran's probably going to respond in a way that is less aggressive, I would imagine,
mm-hmm.
because this is a chance for them to gain some degree of legitimacy internationally with other countries, right? They can make us very much look like the bad guy. However, it is Iran. So, next week they might assassinate the ambassador from the United States to Iraq. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Like, that would be a pretty easy target, I would think. So, and right there.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of the problem, is you don't really know what they're going to do. And we've done something that doesn't seem to have a strategic purpose behind it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to cause problems.
Outside of a fuck you, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it was, right? Yeah.
It's like, storm our embassy, we'll kill your guy. I mean, it just seems retaliatory, which is fine if you have a plan, I guess.
The only conceivable plan that I can come up with, that I've been able to think of, and I don't think that there is any way that this would legitimately be what it is, because I just don't think that Trump thinks this way. This would be like a very chess, not checkers sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you want to pull troops out of Iraq, you can't.
Yeah.
Right. And he definitely can't without getting beat up by members of his own party. But one way to get troops out of Iraq is to have the Iraqis ask them to leave.
Right.
And so there is a part of me that almost wonders if you have a public demonstration and then they think, well, let's ramp this up and see if we can't get ourselves kicked out, so that we don't ultimately have to make the decision about when we leave.
Yeah, because when we left the border where the Kurds were, that didn't really turn out well at all.
That didn't turn out well at all.
Let's learn from that one.
No.
Yeah.
And then we doubled down by sending troops back, not to protect the Kurds, but to protect the oil fields, which was just an amazing move on our part.
Yeah, well, that's very United States of us.
It's super United States of us, right?
That's just kind of been our history in that region.
So it's this is all really problematic, because there doesn't seem to be a strategy. The only thing I can think of is the Iraq pullout strategy. But, Trump has shown no ability to actually plan beyond a visceral reaction.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that even a smart person in his administration has concocted this scheme and sold it to him. Yeah. So I don't know.
It's weird. It becomes such a weird example of political affiliation on certain topics when you talk about this, because I feel like when he starts pulling troops, all sides come together. Democrats, Republicans, they come together in different ways. Like, Republicans are going to back their guy still, but say, we really hope he changes his mind on this decision. We really need to think about this. And Democrats are, obviously going to, paint him with as broad a brush as possible as an evil person and terrible and everything else. So it's interesting to me, because I remember when in President Obama's administration, I apologize, I don't remember exactly what it was that he was doing, but I know it had something to do with overseas. But he basically called out the media on this particular topic as a person in the executive branch. He was like, if I do this, just to paint with a broad stroke or broad brush, if I kill this guy, you're going to say I'm evil. If I don't kill him, you're going to say I'm weak.
Right. Right.
Where are we?
No, no, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, especially on these foreign policy decisions, where we as Americans have such a limited understanding of what's happening on the ground.
Yeah.
And we see everything through the lens of our own interest, without an ability to really understand that there's going to be consequences and responses.
Yeah.
We view everything in this very black and white sort of way, right? And you can do that with this particular case, right? Yeah. And that's what Trump is trying to do. Well, he was a bad dude and we killed him. Yeah, he was a bad dude.
Yeah.
Of course, if we're going to start assassinating bad dudes,
we can start about everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we could have found some badder, less consequential dudes to take care of.
Yeah.
But
I mean, anybody will tell you that's travel to West Africa. It's there are a lot of bad dudes over there.
There's a lot of bad dudes
Let's
over
go take
there.
care of that. It's well, but they don't have oil.
Yeah, right, yeah. I mean, the president of the Philippines has probably killed as many drug dealers as Soleimani had killed, combatants in actual war. So, it's a weird thing. It's weird in the way that political party brings out reactions to some things, because the other thing is that you're going to find that there's a lot of super liberal Democrats who are going to, who are going to hope for this resulting in us limiting our interactions in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Who hope that this will result in us withdrawing troops. Because that isolationist streak among the Trump people is found to the same degree in your very liberal, very progressive Democrats.
Yeah.
So there is a constituency out there that would be supportive of those types of things. But, for the most part, I think, especially among elected leaders in our country, right, sort of, we're an empire, and this is what empires do.
Right.
And you put up or shut up, and we're not going to shut up because that's not what we do.
Right.
So,
well, it's weird to think that, there's, because I bet if you asked the average American, if you polled the average American and you said, is the United States an empire, it would be an emphatic no.
No.
I don't think so at all.
Absolutely
but the way
not.
we act, like if you see the map, and I saw it a couple of times today, and I don't know how accurate this is, but I've seen enough of these to know that it's at least close.
Sure.
All of the military bases surrounding Iran that we have.
Yeah.
And then Iran, it's
Yeah.
like, I'd be pretty threatened too.
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
what you've done with other countries
No.
and ours.
It totally makes sense. I mean, the reason Iran is so pissed off at us is the same reason that Cuba is so pissed off at us, right?
Yeah.
They had a democracy,
Yeah.
a fledgling democracy that we screwed with, basically, out of fear of a communist element that was small and not really existent and not something to really be worried about.
Right.
Right. And then we tinker and dick around with their democracy the same way that we, tried to do with Cuba as they transitioned away from the Spanish Empire. And we've done in hundreds of other places. Right. And they're pissed at us, and they should be pissed at us.
Yeah.
Now, the Iranians are not really good at responding in a reasonable way to things, but it totally makes sense why they're angry with us.
Yeah.
And this is just another in a long string of things that we have done, largely without thinking about the consequences, in the name of democracy, but really in the name of economic hegemony in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So, if you want cheap oil, Americans, we're going to have to kill somebody from time to time, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. But that's a terrifying thought.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. We are now, 3 days into 2020, which means we have the election coming up at the end.
Yeah.
All of this is going on. You and I have talked before. I can't remember if it was over podcast or over text or if it was just mentioned on the podcast, but when you look at the Democratic field, it has taken some odd turns.
For sure.
For a quick second, Kamala Harris was leading,
and she's
then
gone.
Tulsi Gabbard destroyed her in one debate. Joe Biden has,
can't die.
He can't, and he won't go away, and it's so
die.
strange.
He won't die.
That guy, I don't know what he has to. He has to punt a cat, and that he'd probably still be at the top. I don't know. The man is. I don't know what's going on. At this point, after listening to all of these people, the ones that just sound sane are Gabbard, Sanders, and Yang. And if you would have told me that Sanders and Yang would have been on my list of people that I was like, well, at least if they run, that's fine.
Yeah.
You would have had me. I was thinking Biden would take it hands down, and he just is. It's crazy to me what's going on in all that.
It is. It is definitely weird.
Yeah.
I am no fan of Bernie.
Yeah.
And I have real beef with the Bernie Bros. So come at me, Bernie Bros, if you want. But
I don't like
where
the
I
guy.
grew up, we stab people. So just keep that in mind. It's interesting that. I keep sort of waiting. Joe keeps having sort of weird shit, like the day that he told somebody about putting on the record player, and you're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Yeah.
But Joe is a couple of things, right, that we're desperately missing right now. He is a rational actor. He is consistent in his views. And he's, calm.
Yeah.
except for when he's challenging people to old men push-up contests.
Yeah.
But other than some of these like weird Joe things, right? Joe is Joe, and he's who he was 10 years ago and who he was 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he will consistently be that person. And I think that what we're seeing is a lot of Democrats, especially a lot of African-American Democrats who overwhelmingly support him, just really want a return to the way that shit used to be.
Yeah.
You know, like... If I could, at this point, I would vote for Obama for a third term, no problem.
Oh, I think he'd win in a landslide.
Oh, honestly. I think he'd win in a landslide too.
I think he would have won a third term and a fourth term.
Oh yeah, no, I think he would have too.
He was. I mean,
I think he might be done with us. We're not done with him.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I never voted for President Obama.
Sure.
I was never a fan of his policies or anything like that. But like you said on I think it was the last time we spoke. It's like, until he left, you felt like there was just the same kind of guy in office.
Oh, yeah.
Like, same kind of guy. And then Trump comes along, and he's a wild card. And there are some things that, when he called out, NATO or the UN or whatever it was, it's like, good on you. Fantastic. I'm glad that we're doing this.
Sure.
There have been a couple of moments where it's like, this is great. But there are also a lot of moments where I'm like, dude, stop tweeting on the shitter at 3 o'clock in the morning and get some damn sleep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The tweeting is the major problem. I'd vote for Bush.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat. Come back, George.
Yeah. Did you ever see Bill Maher on that?
No.
It's like right after Trump got elected, he was president-elect. They had do you remember the billboard in Texas that said "Miss Me Yet" for Obama?
Oh, yeah.
Bush, like, hey. Doing one of those. Bill Maher posted that, like, and he's like, yes, I do miss you.
Yeah,
I do.
I know. I know. I cannot believe that I thought he was a terrible president.
Yeah.
In retrospect, everything that man did pissed me off, and in retrospect, I'm like, it was all great. Yeah. It was all great. I think I could have lived without the Iraq War, but
yeah, I think a lot of people could.
But
especially Iraq.
Other than that, I think,
Yeah. Well, the Iraq War was so weird because it was so many different lines. It was like, and I was pretty young at the time, so it wasn't like political, everything that was going on was completely apparent to me. But what it seems like is that it was just like, okay, well, we're going in because he's got weapons of mass destruction. Now we're going in to get a dictator out. Now we're planting democracy seeds. Now we're going to be there for 20 fucking years.
We're not doing nation building. But we are going to be there for the next 20 years.
We acquired a new nation.
Right.
But it was like a bankruptcy.
We did not build it.
We didn't. We destroyed a lot of it. But
yes.
Yes. But now we have to rebuild it, which is different.
As I think I have said on the podcast previously, it would have cost way less money for us to roll into Iraq with like a 5-year Marshall Plan sort of thing to get the country back on its feet economically than it has
to do whatever we're doing.
Whatever this has been for the last 20 years.
Yeah. Well, what about the report that came out about all of this? Like, did you see that thing where like they had interviewed like top generals about I can't remember what it's called, like the Afghanistan documents or it was like, we don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
like, no shit.
No shit, yeah. I think we all figured that out. Yeah.
And I felt bad for them, but at the same time it was just like, I'm glad somebody found a document that shows it because everybody's known that for 17 years, 18 years?
I think American history in the last 20 years has proved that you can't point a gun at someone and say, "You're a democracy. Go vote." Like that just doesn't work.
No.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
What was it? Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya. Libya is an interesting one just because we came in and we're like, yeah, we took Gaddafi out. What's happening now? Slavery and stuff.
Yeah, it's like, cool. Don't worry about it.
Don't look there.
Questions.
Look at Iran. Look at Iran.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Everything will be just fine. Yeah, it's going back to the Democratic primary.
Yeah.
I am glad to see it shrinking. Let's hope it continues in that way. Yeah. Because trying to make a decision between all of these nut jobs is just like Marianne Williamson is still running. How is that? I don't understand.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't understand.
There was another name I saw out there that's still running. And then Bloomberg all of a sudden decided he was going to step into the ring, who nobody likes from what I gather.
Yeah, I don't think
doesn't he have like less than 1% approval, but he's spending millions on like these
Tom
beautiful commercials.
Yeah, Tom Steyer's the same way, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got Deval Patrick, who people do actually like, but can't seem to actually get any traction.
Yeah.
But he's just too late. You know, the other problem is he's a moderate, and the moderate lane is pretty well full right now with a mayor who only 8,000 people have ever voted for. I just keep mentioning this. I think that this is important for us to remember, as much as we've all fallen in love with Mayor Pete, that literally only 8,000 people have ever voted for him.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. And then you're going to give him the keys to a country.
Yeah, cool.
Like, not just like any country. Not Togo.
No.
We're giving the country to the most powerful nation in the world.
I don't think I would give him the keys to a Togo sandwich shop, which is a place back in my hometown. But no, I like Mayor Pete. I think Mayor Pete's great. I'd love to see Mayor Pete elected to something or be in the cabinet. You know, I think that would all be wonderful.
Low post, raise yourself up.
Yeah. But, you know, you can't just decide I want to be the president of the United States after being the mayor of South Bend. Though, I mean, if Donald Trump can do it, he wasn't a Rhodes Scholar.
Hey, he interacted with big people.
Yeah, he definitely did. Yeah.
I think Jeff Epstein did too. But
yeah, that's
it
exactly,
didn't work as well out.
Exactly where my mind went.
Oh man, yeah, I'm not looking forward to this election cycle, but I am in a lot of different ways, and it has more to do not with the candidates, which I should. Like, I should absolutely be, you know, a good American and really look at everything and say, this is exactly what I believe and how I believe it. But everything, like, shit is so stirred up right now.
Oh, yeah.
That I'm really looking forward to watching people's reactions.
Yeah.
I'm excited because there was a couple of friends of mine. I have a lot of friends that are very liberal normally from my theater days. A lot of friends that are very conservative normally from, like, you know, high school and and a couple in college and the finance program and stuff like that. And it has been amazing. Like, my Facebook feed is one of my favorite things just because I love seeing it now as somebody who has matured at least a little bit. Where I can step back and, like, I'm not going to comment. I'm just going to watch. Yeah. I'm just going to watch these people that don't know what's going on talk about their hatred for each other.
Yes.
And it's fun to me to listen to because, like, I think both of them bring up really good points.
Sure.
But the one that I saw recently was when the Trump impeachment was going on.
Yeah.
And which just, like, whether you wanted it or not, it seemed like a farce. And I think that my personal opinion is that's probably going to help him more than it hurts him.
Yeah.
Just because I think his base is really well secured.
Yeah.
So I think that just tightened that together. It's like, we're going to go vote now. We're all going to vote.
That's true. I mean, those people are definitely going to vote for him. I don't know if anyone else is going to vote for him, but he's got those people for sure.
I'd be surprised. I really think a lot of people still – I mean, I think there's still a love affair with him. I know it's weird, but I think there are a lot of people that are just like, yeah, I'm not going to talk about it in public, but I'm a fan. I like him over a lot of people.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think there are a lot of secret Trump lovers. Mm-hmm. I think there are, a lot of this depends on who the Democrat is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that Elizabeth Warren would be able to beat Trump.
I think it'd be tough, man.
You could run that election 100 times. I'll bet you she nails it once because she's going to be a turnoff to a lot of those suburban voters.
I think
that you
any
have to
centrist
have.
is going to be turned off by what she's been saying in the primaries.
Right.
I think that's her biggest weakness. Is she's been Twitter friendly.
She's talked a lot of shit.
Oh yeah.
That
like we're going to do this. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
And they will build up her tax policy, and none of it makes sense.
None of it makes any damn sense.
So as soon as you get people on that, I mean, Trump will come up with a name for her, call her out, and have like 3 talking points, and she'll be over.
Honest.
Yeah.
I mean, the other problem is that the in a theoretical way, I love the idea of universal health care. Mm-hmm. In a theoretical way, I love the idea of free college.
Yeah.
In a theoretical way, I love the idea of getting rid of college debt. In a theoretical way, I love the idea of hammering rich people with taxes, right? But chances are, even if a Democrat gets elected president, right, there's still going to be a Republican-controlled Senate. unless something real weird happens.
Yeah, real weird.
You're not going to be able to get tax cuts passed or significant tax increases passed.
Yep.
In the meantime, we have a debt that is absolutely ballooning out of control.
Yeah.
Largely because we don't tax ourselves in a reasonable way.
Mm-hmm.
And, there is public spending issues for sure. But mostly it's, when you look at tax brackets from the 1950s, for example, during our most prosperous period, the top 1% paid 80%.
Yep.
So I'm not saying we should do that, but
I think it has to be a balanced approach.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and I think you have to look at it in a sane way. Like, that's one of the things that I appreciate about you is that you're definitely on the left, but you also look at things and go, that's not rational.
Right.
All of this sounds perfect.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, and if we could start from zero, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
but we're spending $1.5 trillion more than we're actually bringing in taxes.
Right.
So that means we have to make some decisions.
We've had a national debt since 1824.
Yeah.
I mean, and so in a lot of ways, the national debt does get blown out of proportion in turn. Some degree of national debt is good. It's actually not a bad idea for us to have so much of our debt owned by the Chinese. They can't screw with us too hard if they ever want to get their money back. On the other hand, this is becoming a problem. We're looking at adding $1 trillion a year.
Yeah,
I mean that's insane.
We've done that for 5 of the last 10 years, and a couple of those years it was 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's to me.
And during a recession, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, you're trying to build it up. I get that there were programs that we thought we had to pass.
Now we're cool.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like once you pass a couple, you've got to just cut it. It's like okay, we've infused a lot into this economy.
Sure.
No more. But the one thing I do want to hit on though is it's not just the debt that freaks me out. It's the fact that we have $150 trillion supposedly in unfunded liabilities.
Right.
Because we have no idea how we're going to pay for Social Security.
Right.
And my generation,
cool. You don't need it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think about baby boomers and the whole millennial versus baby boomer thing going on right now. But it's I think
my generation should murder all of you.
I wouldn't blame you. Because I look at it and I'm just getting so frustrated to see people that are just this younger generation's awful. And, then I hear this stuff about there's some okay boomer, I'm trying to write off the baby boomer generation.
Oh, you've never been okay boomer?
I haven't, no.
My students okay boomer me all the time.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm not even one.
Yeah.
Dude.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not
okay, Gen X.
What you said was old person-y.
Yeah, you mean smart? I've done this shit before?
I'm sorry. There's nothing you're going to be able to tell me that's ever going to make me change my mind that your defining quality is not your gender identity. I'm sorry. It's just not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I completely and totally agree with that. And the thing that drives me nuts about the if you want to millennial side, Gen Z side, I don't know what the fuck it is anymore. Young people,
I'm confused.
Young people, old people, not many people in the middle, is that the millennial generation is 90 million people, which is wonderful news for boomers because that means you'll have a workforce that can come in, replace, and then Social Security continues to work. But that also means that millennials have to fuck like crazy to create kids.
And they're not going to.
And they're not doing it. So that means
sorry, world, I've let you down in that regard.
I personally don't think it's a terrible thing. But at the same time, it's but programs like Social Security, which is the biggest Ponzi scheme that's ever been created, depends on that. You have to. So if you've got all those baby boomers that eventually get paid, and my generation sits there and doesn't fuck,
right? Then we've got some serious problems.
Yeah, we have to face it at some point. Then you have to be mature enough to do that. And I just don't think it's being looked at all. It's just no, push it down the road, push it down the road, push it. It's fine. Everything's great.
I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting because you have Social Security created in the 1930s at a very real need, right? You had old people that were basically starving to death from depression. So we had to do something as a country, right? And then you get into the 1950s where retirement plans become standard fare, right?
Yeah.
Within American industry.
Yep.
But then that starts to decline in the 80s to cut costs for corporations. Mm-hmm. And then the government sort of expected to take on more. And we see this over and over and over again, right? Is these social programs that get created basically so that corporations can continue to be highly profitable.
Right. Well, I mean, that's Walmart's biggest issue, right?
Right.
Is that they basically pay their people just enough to still be on welfare.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's purposeful, right?
Yeah.
So, so it's interesting that like this discussion isn't really about Social Security. I mean, it is. Mm-hmm. It's clearly a problem, right? Mm-hmm. But really, this is all about like, what does it mean to work in America?
Right.
And what is owed to you by your employer? And what should the government expect employers to provide? And what should be provided by the government? And what the system we've created is totally inefficient and makes no sense.
Well, and I do want to add one more thing into that, too, just because this is what I grew up with is, what should you expect out of multinational billion-dollar corporations as opposed to a mom-and-pop shop up down the road?
Yeah, and that's also true, right?
Because I always tell people, when the $15 minimum wage thing was at its height, the one thing I always told people was, if you have a mom-and-pop shop that has $30 an hour that they know that they can spend on employment, on employees, and this is basic,
right?
And they're paying 3 people $10 an hour.
Right.
And all of a sudden you mandate that it's a $15 minimum wage, and that's all they have to make sure that their lights are turned on at their house. Right. Even if they just have a normal house right down the road or they rent a place. If you mandate it's 15, now that you just created 33% unemployment with their employees.
Right, right.
So you can't expect a company that has billions of dollars in profits to be able to, and that they split amongst their shareholders, to take on the exact same minimum wage that you would have a mom and pop shop.
Right.
And how do you fix that?
And that's the part that, with that discussion about the $15 minimum, like, should Walmart pay a minimum wage of $15?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Yeah.
Of course
Actually,
they should.
We should probably go higher, right? Yeah. I mean, like Walmart makes an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
They should be taking care of their employees in a more reasonable way.
Yeah.
But you're right, like the little insurance agency next door here or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
Like, if they've got a file clerk making $12 an hour, bumping that up to 15 might make a significant difference.
Yeah.
In their business model. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how the problem is if Walmart has to pay $15 an hour, who the hell are you going to hire to file? Because it's
exactly.
But it's really, really, really problematic with, and this is where I think unions and the decline of unions has been problematic.
Yeah.
Because while I understand all the problems with unions, you got to hand it to like the auto workers union,
their people get paid.
Their people get paid.
Yeah. I've got several friends who are in it, and I'll tell you what, don't ever question it. There are a couple of buddies of mine that when they get get heated on Facebook, it's like, dude, I love you. I'm not trying to say anything mean.
Yeah.
Like, I'll hunt you down.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean that's what
it's their livelihood.
They're making $90,000 a year for throwing a hubcap on a car 10,000 times a day.
Don't tell them that. They don't add benefits into that salary.
Well, yeah, that's right. But there's like, I don't know if that is a reasonable wage for that.
Yeah.
But that's certainly more reasonable than making $8 an hour working at Walmart.
Well, and it gives their union a hell of a lot of credit. I mean, that gets people working for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
Dedicated as can be. It's amazing what happens when a corporation does that for their people.
Shit. Yeah.
All of a sudden, they get really excited. It's like the happiest people that you'll ever meet work at like Quick Trip and Costco.
Right. Yes.
Because they treat their employees really well.
Yes.
And Target. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I have people that I went to school with that still work at Target, and they're just happy as can be. They're like, I'm making good money. Everything's fine. Like,
I get a crazy discount at Target.
Exactly.
Who doesn't want that?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it is amazing to see like the happiest corporations still make a shitload of money. Like the people that have the happiest employees.
Yeah,
they still make a ton of money.
I mean, it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Like I used to work at Blockbuster when I was a teenager.
It would have had to be when you were a teenager.
Yeah. And I'm old.
Okay, boomer.
It was yeah. Tell me about it. It was always interesting to me that Blockbuster was certain that the primary source of theft in stores was their employees.
Interesting.
And they would like outright say that. and then tell you like all these ways that you could be stealing from them.
Like, that's a good idea. Let me
And
write
that
that down.
yeah, you should. And then if you're caught doing any of these, you're going to be fired.
Yeah.
You know. And working at a Blockbuster in beautiful Stockton, California, feel like I can assure you that the employees were not the primary source of theft. And it always struck me like, why don't you just like put up a big poster that says we do not trust you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it could be right there in the back with all the legal stuff that you have to
yeah. It's like the message you're sending is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing this? And I think that actually encouraged people to steal.
Yeah.
From them. It was like, well, if you think I'm doing it, then I might as well go do it. No. By the way, I make like,
nothing.
$6.85 an hour,
Yeah.
So fuck you. I am gonna take a Choco Taco. Not that I ever did that or anything.
No, of course not. No,
never.
No. Nope, never stole anything ever.
Definitely not from Blockbuster.
Yeah, no, it's not worth it. It's always fun to me to see like the Blockbuster buildings now that get turned into like mini strip malls because they were still massive.
Yeah,
and kind of that size.
Yeah,
but it's just like you've got like your Subway and your auto parts store and one other thing. It's like, hey,
yeah,
somebody's repurposing.
Yeah,
this is awesome. Good job, guys.
Blockbusters.
If you guys would have fucking thought about this, you could have been good property owners.
Yeah, no shit. They did not.
No.
Strategic thinking was not part of their...
Dude, do you remember the transition from Netflix? I know we're getting off topic, but do you remember the transition from Netflix when everybody was like, you have to wait to get your DVD delivered to you? That's awful.
Right.
It's like, no, but it's in a queue, so you send it back, and then they send you another one. Like, that's dumb.
That's dumb.
Then they added 2 to it. It's like, well, I guess if I've got to have 2 and it's just 2 days shipping, then it'll be fine.
Right.
And then Jeff Bezos was like, I'm going to have $136 billion with 2-day shipping.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I love that people bitch about Amazon and Jeff Bezos, and it's like, how convenient is that motherfucker made your life?
Yeah. No shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the most interesting conversation that I've ever had. I apologize. I'm jacking with that. Just nervous habit. The most interesting conversation that I ever had with people who we'll just say have not made X number of dollars, like who have never made like a total of 100 and I think what's it now, $18,000 or $17,000 in their household, is that so many people don't know, and I think that this is intentional. So many people don't know that your income increases once you hit that level because you no longer pay for Social Security. You no longer have that like 2% payment to Social Security. And every time I would explain that to somebody, it's like, oh, well, you have a raise this year, so you're going to have this much in gross. We take this off. Okay, so you're going to pay that. So actually, once you hit, November 12th, when that paycheck is, your income is going to increase.
Right.
And that has pissed more people off than I can count when I explain that.
Yeah, the fact that Jeff Bezos does not pay, I mean, like, his 2% could fix the problem. It's like... That is insane. The fact that in the United States we cap income taxes is just the most frustrating thing ever. And I do not understand why we can't fix that.
Because it's not because everybody in America thinks that they're going to be Jeff Bezos eventually.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Yeah, you can't. Yeah. I don't want my future earnings taxed. I'm going to be a millionaire.
Yeah, well, it's like watch any show that deals with like financial advice to potential lotto winners, and you'll see the show that's like, what would you buy? Well, you're going to buy a house, and you're going to have 5 cars, and you're going to do this. It's like, well, what would you actually do? It's like, well, you'd have to get a financial advisor, an accountant together.
Right.
Find a lawyer to make sure it's all taken care of. It's like it's never fun. It's like, so you can't tell me that if most people became millionaires or billionaires that they're just immediately going to grow this financial sense of mind.
No.
Like that they're going to actually know what's going on. But like with regard to stuff like that where it caps or you can take different gains out, like do, play with your accounting and do first in, first out.
Right.
And all of a sudden, like, you're paying long-term capital gains, and that's what you're able to take from your company. So Jeff Bezos is living high on the horse.
Right.
But he only has, like, $1 of salary.
Right.
It's like, good on him. I mean, that encourages people to invest in companies at a lower level. But when you get to that upper echelon, when you get to those billionaire statuses where you're able to take capital gains like crazy and you're not paying, you're still paying income tax in a way, but you're paying capital gains tax in long-term form. So you're now paying 20% as opposed to 40 or close to it. It's like you can make a moral argument that that's what they should be paying because that's what the law is. But it's really tough for somebody who's also paying 20% and has a couple of kids,
right,
to make that work.
Yeah, it is crazy that we cap it on the top end, and we do cap it on the bottom end, but we cap it on the bottom end at like, I don't know, like $12,000. Yeah. If you make less than $12,000, you don't have to pay taxes.
And that's what I've never understood.
Fuck you.
Well, like, why don't we have that at the poverty level?
Yeah.
If the poverty level is set at a certain year, at the beginning of the year, poverty level set at 16.5. That should be 0.
Sure. You would think.
But that's not what it is.
That's not what it is.
Now, normally it gets down to 0 or less.
Why don't we cap it at the bottom of the middle class?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, if you're making $25,000 or $30,000 a year,
you should not be paying taxes on that.
Yeah, and to be fair, because I can hear my friends in the financial community screaming, it's like, to be fair, most don't end up paying that. Well, because they have deductions and things like that. I mean, even standard deduction on your taxes is still going to, and credits and stuff like that, are still going to normally get you down to 0. But that's a really complicated fucking system for people that don't understand that you should probably think about retirement now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, how do you invest for retirement when you're making $30,000 a year?
Exactly.
You're not. You know.
Yeah. Work 2 jobs.
Speaking of which, one of the only positive things that I can say about the way that corporate America is operating today is that when I get dividends on my investments, I am always shocked at how much money I get.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh, that's where all of the money in our economy is going. It's going to investors in the way of dividends, because I don't have a large portfolio, but I am still like, oh,
there it is.
I see now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember I had a client who had was a divorced client, married for several years, and they had a settlement, and they had a very good business going on, and he basically took the business, and she took a chunk of the earnings. And so she was with another advisor for a few years and had her in an account that I didn't understand. Like, it was way too heavy in stuff. She needed it for some income, just like some extra income. And she kind of told me what she needed, and I was like, well, I don't want to put you in like a super risky portfolio, because even though you're working, this is kind of your big thing, and I don't want it to tank. But I said I can put together more of a bond-centric portfolio that's going to kick out dividends and capital gains. So she was like, okay. So I pulled it out and got it to her, and at the time it was when pretty much everything had completely crashed. So all of the stuff that was over leveraged was gone now, and it was these, it wasn't a junk bond fund, but it was just over, and it was that and a mix of some AAAs and some other good stuff, but just kind of like, this is an income producing portfolio. It's really what it is. And because everything else had been trashed, all of these junk bonds were basically companies that used to be like A or AA that were now like B or double B. They still had the funds. They were still kicking out dividends, but now they pretty much had to pay their people more. Right. And so her dividends went, her income monthly went from like a couple $100 to like $2,000. Yeah. It's like, well, how did that happen? It was like, because everything else is gone. Right. Because you got Apple as a, AA as opposed to a AAA. So congratulations. You got a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, it's still going like that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I fear when this ends. It will end.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually. It will end. But the upside to that is, as I have commented earlier, happy hour will be affordable again. Yeah. And that'll make me the happiest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy hour, domestics for $12.
Yeah. Drink up. It's $9 beer night.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the, I think it was I can't remember which game. It was one of the big games. Like, I can't remember if it was NFL or if it was a bowl game. I think it was a bowl game, like maybe the first of the college football championship games. And, or what do they call it now? The college football playoff.
Yeah.
They're like, well, thank God that the, domestic beer is cheaper than the import beer. It's only $15.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, and the import was $17.
If you want to go to a college playoff football game, you're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. Or you want to go to Arrowhead, you're still going to pay for it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. In more ways than one.
Yeah.
So should we actually talk about impeachment?
Yeah, let's do it. Let me check one thing real quick, just because I want to make sure I've got. Okay, cool. I had a 1 o'clock appointment and they canceled on me, so that's totally fine. Let me check my other thing real quick too.
I'm not talking to you until 1 o'clock.
You say that. Of course, we're all still talking probably later this evening.
Yeah.
Cool, still going. That thing canceled on me twice, and you would think it canceled on me every time. So let's talk impeachment.
Yeah. Woo!
So how do we start this?
I actually think that maybe there is a chance that Trump will be removed.
Really?
Yeah. Not because of where we're at today, but because of all of the other weird things that are going to come out that is already starting to happen.
Yeah.
You know, you saw yesterday where those emails were released. Mm-hmm. Those are pretty damning.
Yep.
Right? And I think that I think there's going to be more things like that make it really clear.
If he's removed, that would be the biggest chess move of all time for Democrats.
It would be, except that they're not going to be responsible,
yeah.
right? It's like the biggest chess move. I mean, in some ways, if it happens, it's going to be more about Republicans reclaiming the Republican Party, right? Because that's ultimately who's going to have to make that decision.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that you have the situation that's unfolding in Iraq, right? You have foreign relations is suddenly heating up in a way that it hasn't been for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That's the real danger for Trump, right? Because he clearly doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
No, foreign relations is not his thing.
No, and he won't listen to anybody. And so he's going to just antagonize, especially Republican senators who are overwhelmingly pretty consistently traditional in their approach to foreign relations.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we have the possibility of a nexus of things happening that could, I think, push some people to the point of wanting to actually do something.
Yeah.
The other thing is, keep in mind there is an election, and it could be that some Republican senators are looking at a real tough road if they continue to support him.
Yep.
And Nancy Pelosi has done something genius in just holding the impeachment articles.
Yeah.
Because while I don't know that that's necessarily legal or that the Senate even needs them in order to start a trial, the Senate's so disinterested in actually dealing with this that they're just going to let it sit there.
Right.
And she is disinterested in pushing this along. So she's just going to but I think that she has ultimately, I think her understanding of Trump's psychology is the most interesting thing about the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Because this is a move that is, I think, designed to widen the gap between Republican senators and Trump. Because the only person who can't handle the fact that this is just sitting there is him.
Yep.
And his behavior seems to be getting even more erratic based on the fact that this is just
sitting there.
And he can't handle it.
Well, because he's not in control.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
And that's what he likes. He likes being the guy in control.
And I think that the fact that a woman is the one who is in control also is really frustrating to him. You know, he's not exactly...
What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Everyone knows.
Yeah. So I think it's a real outside shot that he would get removed. I think there would have to be more stuff that has to happen.
Yeah.
But I think that there's going to be more stuff that happens. And I think we're going to learn more about what happened. And I think it's getting dangerously close to where, you know, maybe John Bolton and Mulvaney and those guys don't testify before the Senate, but the House can certainly call them.
Oh, yeah.
And that's legally getting closer and closer to happening. So I think we might end up with a situation where there's a trial going on in the Senate, and there's also some pretty damning hearings in the House.
And see, I think you and I feel the exact same way about how this might go down. But strategically, I feel like Nancy Pelosi should send them immediately because my personal opinion would be if you want to damn him and you also want to call these guys in and wait for that to occur, I would make sure that they said, nope, he's not guilty, not going to have a trial, no issue, vote, done, and then go, oh, we just got legal ability to call these people. Now we're going to make your decision to not do that look real fucking bad.
There is that for sure. But I don't know. I mean, like the idea that she's just playing him, right? And the funny thing about it is because she is, Nancy is unique for speakers of the House in that she is from such a solidly Democratic district.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like previous speakers have lost re-election, right? Like that's not exactly uncommon in American history.
No.
She's not going to.
No.
Will there even be a Republican on the ballot in San Francisco?
Why would there be?
You know what I mean? Yeah, you have no chance in hell. Yeah. Jacob Turk here in Kansas City has a better chance of unseating Cleaver, and there's no chance.
No chance, yeah.
So
I had just as good a chance of unseating Cleaver as Jacob Turk.
Yeah, you did. So she can keep doing. It's interesting the way it was like we had a impeachment hearing because Nancy declared one, not because the House voted on it, right? But there's no actual rules for how this all happens. And she's like, well, I can take the hit.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to me? Absolutely nothing.
Do you think that what do they call them? The group or the
group? The squad?
The squad. That's right. It's that terrible name. Do you think the squad kind of forced her hand on that? Because it really seemed like it was one of those moments where it was like, well, we're going to start using our power. We're not going to unseat Nancy Pelosi. But if we can start driving this a little bit to the left, then it's not going to be in Nancy's control anymore.
The squad is an interesting group.
Yes.
Right?
Very true.
Because they are overwhelmingly attractive young women, we have disproportionately attributed power to them that they do not have. They are still freshman backbench congressmen.
Yeah.
With not a committee chairmanship between them, right? Like they actually have no power in Congress outside of Twitter.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, Nancy just doesn't give a shit what they have to say about anything. So I totally get where it can seem like she's responding to them.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any chance in hell that's what it was because at the end of the day, they really don't have any power. And, AOC, I'm pretty sure is getting primaried.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, is she going to be a member of Congress in the next Congress? Because I'll tell you what, I would never vote for somebody who single-handedly ran 80,000 jobs out of my congressional district.
Hell no. Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what, that's like,
that's
your primary job is to be a job creator,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. To improve the economy and everything else of your district,
especially crazy good jobs.
Yeah,
like those Amazon headquarters jobs. We're not talking about warehouse jobs.
No.
We're talking like good jobs.
Yeah,
there's no way.
No,
there's no way. But it's interesting to me that their rise has absolutely nothing to do with the policies. It has everything to do with the fact that they're pretty. It really does.
That's exactly what it is.
Absolutely no doubt about this.
Yeah.
Now, where you do see. Where I think Nancy was responding, though, was that group of 13 moderate Democrats from Trump districts who finally said, okay, this is too much.
Yeah.
Like, this guy has clearly done some shit, and we need to investigate it.
Yeah.
Now, that group, I think, does have power because they're the difference between being in the minority and being in the majority.
Yeah.
And,
that makes sense.
And you gotta keep them all in office. So if they want it, they're gonna get it.
Right. It's amazing to me, and this happens in the Electoral College, which I agree with more, and it I disagree with it in Congress, so I don't know if I'm a hypocrite or if I just have different ideology when it comes to an individual voting as opposed to the group in power voting.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting to me that one person or 13 people can swing 535.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 435 in the House, 100 in the Senate, but I can't remember. Was it a couple of years ago that there was like one, like it was a 51-49 margin in the Senate?
In the Senate, yeah, there was
it was like Rand
one
Paul.
swing vote. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Rand Paul was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Guess what I'm going to get? Anything I fucking
Anything
want.
I want. Woo! Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Exactly.
You're
yeah.
getting an aquarium.
But no, I mean, that's it. I think if I remember right, didn't back in the day, like if you were one of those 13, it's like all of a sudden a new post office or two would show up in your district?
Yeah, actually, so this is why Congress is not functioning currently.
Yeah.
Because Republicans thinking, in a way, they were right? Because government shouldn't function this way.
Mm-hmm.
But Republicans, back in the last string of times where they had the majority in both houses, they took out earmarks from
that's right.
bills,
Uh-huh.
right? You cannot just add in a random spending line into a bill that has nothing to do with a budget. That's against the rules of both houses at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why Congress doesn't work now.
Yeah, because you can't.
Because you can't.
Because they went against pork.
Right.
Wasn't that pork?
That's pork.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to have ways of bringing home results to individual congressional districts to make national politics local.
Yeah.
So, why do I give a shit about water quality in Flint, Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, actually, that's probably the prime example, right? Why is Flint, Michigan still having issues, right? Because the federal government hasn't taken responsibility for it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that benefits one person's congressional district.
Right.
Right? So how are you going to get the rest of Congress involved in helping that? Well, you got to give them something, right? So that's where you get the post office or the summer camp or, the Kit Bond Bridge over the Missouri River, right? And that's it's the it drives me insane that every year we talk about, well, it's infrastructure week. This is the week Congress will tackle infrastructure, and then absolutely nothing gets done.
Yep.
Right? It used to be in this country that you didn't have to have a week for infrastructure because you dealt with problems as they came up by sliding them into other bills.
Right.
Right?
Which sounds bad.
Which sounds terrible, right? Like, I totally understand
but it's how shit gets done.
It is. Yeah. I totally get why. It's.
Well, there are certain bills that would get so turned around.
Yes.
And be like,
and that would happen too.
We're passing a legal. Oh, dumb example, but it's not dumb, but. We're passing a marijuana legalization bill. It's called Marijuana Legalization 15. And then by the time it gets to the Senate to vote and the president's desk, it's called, like, hopefully we imprison more people 12.
Right.
And
yes,
marijuana
exactly.
legalization's out.
It's
and
out.
all the shit they put in wanted to be in. And so
now
I
if
understand.
You get caught with a joint, it's the death penalty.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
That's what we passed.
No,
Congratulations. Marijuana legalization.
No,
yeah.
this shit happened. And so I get it. But and this is an interesting, one of the interesting themes in American history in the 20th century is our efforts to reform things that end up blowing up in our faces, right? Which doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to reform things, but we need to I'm often reminded, Jimmy Carter, when he got elected, immediately ran into a ton of problems with getting anything through Congress.
Yeah.
And when they asked Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House at the time, like, what? Why are there so many problems? His response was, well, he sold off the presidential yacht. No, the president of the United States used to have a yacht.
Yep.
It would float around on the Potomac, right? Yep. Carter was very about saving money, and so he sold the yacht off, right? And the reason why that came up as an issue was because previous presidents had used the yacht as a way of getting members of Congress out into the Potomac with no escape,
It's a J.P.
right?
Morgan thing.
Yeah,
So J.P. Morgan used to do on his boat. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's what, and they would hash shit out on the boat, right?
Yeah. We're not going back to shore until you motherfuckers get your shit together.
Exactly. And so but it was an honor to be invited onto the yacht, even though you knew you were going to get strong-armed into something, right? And it's like, Carter was right. The president of the United States does not need a yacht. That is a waste of money, right? Yep. But that yacht had been so important to getting things done, especially when Johnson was president. Yeah. And it had become an expectation of Congress that they were going to be wined and dined and strong-armed in this way. And that's
such the ultimate, like, at least buy me dinner first mentality.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, buy me dinner, use some lube, right? I mean, like,
I'm going to regret this, but at least I got a good dinner.
At least I got some beef Wellington out of it. But this is, the Republicans in particular over the last 20 years, in their attempt to boil the world down in a black and white way, so that whatever it is they're up to has immediate traction with a group of voters that are maybe not as educated and not as aware, right? That sounds good, but is constantly sort of running into creating more and more problems. Yeah. Right? The Democrats have a long history of doing this also, right? Like, especially in the 19-teens and 1920s, right? We see a lot of efforts at reform that end up essentially blowing up in our faces. It's like like a lot of our problems in America, and I realize that what I'm about to say is really, really popular among historians, and people like always just sort of roll their eyes at us. A big step towards fixing problems would be ending the direct election of senators.
Explain.
So it used to be, prior to the 19-teens, that each individual state legislature was responsible for electing their state senator when they had an opening. It was not done by popular vote. Yeah. Because your state senator, or your senator from your state, represents your state, not the people. Right. Right? So the government would elect your senator, which means the people who were all senators were all very focused on local politics, right? Very focused on bringing things home for their state, working with their state legislatures in order to meet state needs. Yeah. And they were always people who were very in tune politically and with their political party, right? So it's like a guy like Josh Hawley, who has like no experience. Yeah. Right, would never have been elected a United States senator if the election was held by the state legislature. Right. So that makes sense. So it's also a way of making sure you always had your most seasoned, most veteran people.
That does make sense. Yeah.
I mean,
well, and it's the most. I mean, yes and no. I'm sure there's an argument to it, but I mean, it's pretty well known it's the most powerful of the two houses.
Absolutely.
So you want the person that knows what they're doing in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if I, as a voter, decide that in a primary Josh Hawley looks the part as opposed to Josh Hawley knows what the fuck he's doing, right? That's a problem. It's like,
absolutely.
And the Missouri House would pick a Republican every time now, or the Missouri.
No, they would. Yeah. They would. Yeah, we would never have I don't know if a Democrat could win a statewide election in Missouri at this point, but I don't know. But they would definitely pick a Republican. But that's part of the game, right? Yeah. And the other thing about that is
that makes so much more sense.
That the Democratic Party has done such a shitty job of developing a lower bench of politicians. Yeah. Right? Whereas the Republican, there's a reason why Republicans have taken over so many states. It's because they set out to do that. Yeah. Right? And Democrats have just sort of ignored it. Yeah. And, that's really where I think a lot of our problem should be solved. Yeah. Should be more at the state level than at the national level.
Oh, of course.
Right? And so, but because we tend to ignore that in favor of national politics, this would help to recenter our focus a little bit.
Well, it's interesting to me to think about my mind's still being blown by the idea of that, because it's like, yeah, of course you vote for, the populace is always going to vote for a pretty face over somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. I mean, what was it? McKinley was the first person like that was voted for by. It was like it's always the joke, like McKinley or somebody like that after the amendment was passed to allow women to vote. It's always the joke that
Wilson
was it Wilson?
Yeah.
It's like he was better looking than the other candidates.
Yeah, wait, no, sorry, not Wilson. It was Harding.
Harding, okay,
and he was better looking.
Yeah,
he was a sex machine.
But I mean, to me, it's just funny because it's like. You saw that, and it's probably more to it than that, but it's just like that's always the joke. He's like far better looking than the other guy, and women had just gotten the right to vote. So they picked him, and they voted well in favor.
Absolutely.
For him. Yeah. So, but it's interesting because we do that as a population. I mean, the taller guy normally wins.
Yes.
The better looking guy normally wins.
Absolutely.
I mean, Nixon Kennedy was the best example of that in history. It's
right.
Like first televised debate, Kennedy looked like a rock star. Nixon looked like he was sweating his ass off.
He was.
And they probably both were, but one had makeup on.
Right.
So he looked pretty.
Right.
And if you listened on radio, Nixon
won. Right.
Kennedy won, and everybody was watching on TV because of course they were. It's the first time. Yeah, it's crazy to me that's not the thing anymore. I understand the idea that you'd want a direct elect, but at the same time, if you're really thinking about it logically, like you want the person that knows what they're doing.
Right. Well, it really comes down to who does that person represent.
Yeah.
Right. They don't represent the people of Missouri. They represent Missouri.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's hard to wrap your head around. It's like, but we are. It's like, no.
You're not. You're not. You know, because that's the thing. Like the people of Missouri are never going to be able to fix the problems with I-70.
No.
But the state of Missouri could. Yeah.
Yeah. If they weren't too busy arguing.
Yeah, about Sharia law or whatever the fuck it is this week that they've decided is going to be the big problem.
I never have voted for, and this is going to sound weird because I'm normally on the right, but I never voted for a Republican for governor of the state. Last time I voted Libertarian because I had no idea what to do when I was running. But every other time I voted for, I think it was Jay Nixon, and then I can't remember who the other guy was. He actually is a Cass County guy, so I should remember him. But I voted for them because I was just like, no. Mm-mm.
I probably shouldn't admit this publicly, but I kind of like our current governor.
He's very quiet, and that's nice.
He's very quiet and competent, and he seems to be like. There are certainly things I disagree with,
of course,
no doubt about that. But I like the fact that he is authentically concerned about the violence problems in St. Louis and Kansas City, and I like that he is open to the possibility of different gun laws within the cities. Because I mean, like, okay, yeah, you know, I get it. People want their guns. But man, in the city, we don't need that shit.
Yeah,
like my outside of my house sounded like Beirut on on New Year's Eve. I mean, it was like the gunshots were insane.
Yeah, this is always tough for me because I'm very pro Second Amendment, and I also know what it says. Like the militia part is there too.
We seem to have forgotten that part.
Yeah. But I also understand that, like, in order to have that, you have to have people that have guns.
Sure.
I think that the well-regulated part would be a really positive thing if we brought that back.
Yeah.
Have, Minutemen kind of shit, like, training going on.
I think I agree. I actually think if you're going to own a gun, you have to be able to run an 8-minute mile.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, if you're going to take
you
got to
go do the training, right?
I mean, and I think that you're responsible for that. I also think that, like, if you're somebody who's a hunter listening to this, they're like, well, fuck you. Like, especially people that go up, like, and actually do, like, real hunting. Like, deer hunting is wonderful.
Sure.
Hunting elk, hunting bear, hunting moose, that's a very different game. And if you own a handgun, you're going to need that because if you run into a bear, like, not a black bear, not like one that
like
you go,
grizzly bear.
Like a grizzly bear, a Kodiak, and they start running at you, you're going to need something that's not just like...
Right.
Like you're going to want something you can pull out of your holster and shoot them. So I get that. And I understand concealed carry. I mean, we saw that, shooting in Texas that was solved like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
the one time that worked out.
Well, and they had video of it, so it makes it even better.
It's even better. Yeah.
But I mean, it's just one of those things where, and I don't think it's the one time it worked out. I think this happens on a basis more often. I think it's just small issues as opposed to like 36 people.
But most of the time, it's like half the school gets wiped out before anybody is there.
Yeah, because the teachers don't have guns, Kory.
Oh my God, you want to talk about a terrible idea? You do not want me armed. Your children would be over.
Worry about you like shooting the kids accidentally.
That's all right. Oh, there'd be no accident about it.
But no, it's just one of those like. I think it's just it's like abortion. It's just too complicated of a debate for people to have rationally.
Right.
And you can't. And unfortunately, we're at this point we're represented by people who also can't have that debate rationally. Because, and again, this is not a negative, but the fact that our government is so open now as opposed to what it used to be is both positive and horrible. Because if you could have a legitimate, rational debate where certain representatives and senators didn't feel like they needed to, get their big moment on TV and yell at the other side, you could have a rational debate.
Well, if you've heard, going back to the impeachment hearing, when you hear the descriptions of what the closed-door committee hearings are like versus the public hearings,
I'm sure
it's night and day.
Yeah.
I mean, even, they released the transcripts from the closed-door ones, and if you read those, it's like, wow, y'all were actually asking questions.
Yeah.
Like, trying to find some shit out. Like,
well, they even made
both
that
sides.
a shit show. Because then they, went in, nope, you can't have those closed-door meetings. We're going to march down to that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Jesus, guys.
That is my single favorite current sign of our failing democracy.
Yeah.
Because something like a fourth of the people who did that were on that committee.
Yeah.
And were allowed in there.
Yeah.
They could have just walked in and participated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is redonkulous.
Yeah. And the thing that frustrates me is both sides, and I've, again, I think this is just one of those things that you get older and you realize this, but one of the things that's just been driving me insane is what I saw the Democrats complain about and the Republicans complain about before and during the Obama years. Just switch it.
It just flopped.
It's just the exact same fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's like, how long has it been like this? Oh, forever.
Forever.
If you research it, it's forever.
Yeah.
Always.
The problem is that now it's easier to pick up on your hypocrisy because everything is recorded and things are so much more open, right?
Yeah. Well, the Kavanaugh hearing was the perfect one.
Oh,
to me, that was the biggest, bullshit shit show. It's like no matter where you fall on if you wanted him there, if you didn't want him there, what you thought about the hearing, Lindsey Graham screaming across the aisle, one of the senators on the Democratic side reading their yearbook, his high school yearbook, Cory Booker and Kamala saying, kick me out, just go ahead and do it. Oh, so you can have a rallying cry. That's the reason you're asking for it. It's like, you're all terrible people. That's really what this comes down to.
It's funny, the Cory Booker single-handedly lost any respect that I had for him in that hearing.
Yep.
When he was like, this is my Spartacus moment. And his Spartacus moment was an email in which Kavanaugh was doubting that police racially profile suspects.
Yeah.
It's like, well, he's a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
I could have told you he doubted that police racially profile people.
Yeah.
Just from looking at him.
Yep.
And even though I think he's wrong, I know there are a lot of people who think that.
Yeah.
He did not say, and see at the Klan rally.
Right.
It was like, I don't really think this is a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what I would totally expect him to think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not news.
That's not a Spartacus moment.
That's not a Spartacus moment. You're just acting like a fool,
You're preparing to run for president.
Yeah,
that's exactly
and
what's
doing
going
it poorly.
on. Exactly.
It worked out the way that it worked out.
Yeah. No, it was that I watched the whole thing because I was like, I knew how it would be reported, and that was one of the more interesting things to actually see was watching all of it and then seeing how it was reported everywhere.
Right.
And I think that's something that most people just don't have time to do, and I just happened to have time that day.
Right.
Everything canceled on me, so it was like, okay, I'm going to
watch this.
I'm going to watch this. And I did, and it was like when she came up, it was she seemed very truthful, honest, remembered everything. No matter your opinion on it, she was a great witness. Her lawyers did well. When they needed to be called in, they protected her. And it was like, oh shit, this is pretty crazy. And then his speech in the beginning was pretty rocky. His questions were very rocky.
Yeah.
But there was a part of me that was like, I don't think that was as bad as it was reported overall, but it was still pretty sticky.
Yeah.
But the thing I came away with it at the very end was, I guess my opinion personally would be there's got to be a better guy. I didn't see a moment where I didn't see a moment where I can say that I would like have said like absolutely not, never ever, that's terrible, because you can't prove anything. My only thought coming away from that was there's got to be a better guy. Like if Trump just came down and was like, look, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Let's just figure something else out. He could have passed somebody else that was fine.
You know, the really interesting thing about it from my perspective is as much energy as Democrats put in to trying to tank his nomination, he might end up being a favorable member of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting the way that conservatives on the Supreme Court have a way of all of a sudden not really being all that conservative.
Yeah, they meet Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's more intelligent than they are.
Yeah,
by
like
double.
You win.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, you're right. You're correct on that.
Yeah, it's interesting the way that body remains actually truly deliberative. And so, you know, I don't know that him being there is really going to end up being a problem.
No, it won't be.
You know,
there'll just be more beer. Because he likes
beer. More. Yeah. On a side note, I really would have thought that a person who went before Congress and said, "I like beer, I drank beer, I still drink beer, I like beer," would become my personal hero. And I just can't go there.
No, not yet.
But I want a T-shirt that says that.
Yeah. Maybe there'll be a good decision like that he makes.
Yeah, he
like,
makes a really good decision, and then I'll be like,
he likes beer.
You know what? He's all right.
I feel like I could go have a beer with him.
He's
We're
all
12.
right.
Yeah, the yearbook thing pissed me off on the left the most. Like outside of Cory Booker, that was just ridiculous. But the yearbook thing, I was just like, are you for real? But the thing that was the most interesting, and probably the reason that if I were the president, I just would have gone to him like, we're not going to vote on you, was when in that, we'll call it compassionate speech that he made.
Yeah.
He attacked Democrats.
Oh, yeah.
And like when I heard that, like there was just a visceral reaction on my side. Like when I'm watching that, and all of a sudden he's like, and it's been orchestrated by the Democratic Party, and I was like, whoa, dude, you're going for the Supreme Court. You can't say that. Even if you think it, you can't say that shit.
Yeah. Well, he said it.
He said it loud and clear. It was weird, man.
Yeah, it's super weird. That whole thing was really very odd.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like winning. I mean, you know, there have been a lot of like really weird justices over the course of our history, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But man, that really, how he got there really kind of takes the cake. But I think he might end up being an okay justice.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, like you said, all those guys end up, I think, kind of feeling the weight of who they are now.
Yeah. I mean,
like, oh shit,
John Roberts, shocking voice of reason.
Yeah, which is always strange.
Yeah.
Mr. Conservative.
But he's not, but he's like an old school conservative, whereas like
sane.
And conservative also means not tearing everything down, right? Or at least it used to.
Yeah.
So when he's, like the Obamacare decision, for example, I'm sure he's looking at that and he's like, well, fuck, if I'm the fifth vote to tear this shit down, what replaces this?
Right.
This is going to impact people's lives in a very real way.
Yeah.
And okay, maybe I don't agree with this policy, and maybe I don't think this is necessarily constitutional, but it's where we're at.
And the Constitution's number one goal is to protect the people.
That's
and
absolutely
if you view
right.
it as protecting the people, then there you
right.
go.
Then we're gonna have to go with it,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I mean, it's interesting the way that even Gorsuch has had some like
he's had his moments
out of the weird. Left field where all of a sudden he's like, I'm voting with the liberals. And you're like, what the?
I just have to keep my track record looking good. It's fine.
Yeah.
They're going to win anyway.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, what is going on here?
I'm very happy that Ginsburg is still there. Like I tell Nikki this all the time. It's like, I don't agree with her on a lot, but she's way smarter than I am.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's, like I'd rather have somebody on there that I disagree with, but is intelligent about it.
Yeah.
Than anything else.
She's so much smarter and badass than we are.
Oh yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And have you watched the documentary on it?
I have not. No.
Yeah. Nikki I think, like, fell asleep, so she's got to watch the last 30 minutes. Nikki, who loves the woman, was just so tired that she was like, okay. And I'm watching it like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. This chick is amazing. Yeah, I was ridiculously impressed. But, yeah, she's definitely way more intelligent than I'll ever be.
Yeah, no, I hear that. God, I hope. It is interesting, I was just thinking about the fact that she will die someday.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are thinking about that right
now. Yeah, really. Just one more year, baby. You just got to hold out one more year.
Is what you hope.
Do it for democracy.
Yeah, you're thinking that. A lot of people are thinking, like, yeah,
5
you got to hold out 5.
There's no way this dude could make it through a whole nother term.
Dude, I bet he can.
I mean, I don't know.
They've been telling him you can't do shit forever, and he's just been like, yeah, well, I just won the presidency with 3 bankruptcies behind my name.
Well, yeah, no shit. I mean, at some point, right? Doesn't the Republican Party have to say like, no, man, we can't do this.
Not if they're in charge.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, this I think is probably the thing that I find most disturbing about the last 3 years. Is that especially for those of us who are old enough to remember the Clinton years, in which the Republican Party was constantly positioning itself as the voice of morality within our country.
Yeah.
Morality, decency, dignity, right?
Well, and especially after Clinton fed them that.
And yeah, I mean, Clinton made it super easy.
Yeah.
And now that's just gone.
Yeah.
Like, they don't care at all. And it's like, it was always, I always sort of thought like, well, I disagree with you. Right. But at least I know at the end of the day,
yeah,
you guys, sort of care about a sense of value, a sense of morality, right? Like, we can disagree on policy things, but at least kind of we all have the same vision of what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah, well, Reagan talked about, a senator that he was really good friends with. He had him over to his house the night before, and then the next morning the guy delivered just a horrible speech about Reagan.
Yeah.
And he met him and, like, he went over and was like, what the hell was that about? And the guy was like, oh, that's just politics. I still love you.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
That's how it used to be.
And it's like, like, I understand that, but it's like, I really thought they had some lines in the sand they weren't willing to cross.
Not anymore, man.
They've crossed them all.
Well, and that's what I think is the issue with social media.
No, social media combined with 24-hour news networks has really screwed up our sense of ability to
between
act in a rational
Fox,
way.
CNN, and MSNBC.
Yeah,
you pair that with a tweet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's we have become totally reactionary.
Yeah.
To everything, but I just keep thinking to myself, like, at some point, Republicans in particular in the Senate there's got to be a breaking point, right? There's got to be a point at which they're like, no, I don't really give a shit about being elected if it's reelected if it's under these conditions.
Yeah. Well, and I think people who are moderates that are that feel that way, like you just said. I think people that are moderates really, and probably a good message for everybody is, President Obama was weakened almost immediately because there was that huge Tea Party movement, and in the first midterm he got just
crushed.
Yeah, just completely crushed.
Absolutely.
And not just crushed, but crushed by far right.
Oh, yeah.
The far right ideology. Yeah. With Trump, he didn't, they talked about the blue wave in the midterm. Yeah, they took back over the House. But there was a chair gained in the Senate.
Yeah, right.
He was still on track, and people were still happy with him enough to do that.
Right.
But with the second term coming up, it's always true about the second term. Like, now I'm in the I don't give a fuck term.
Well,
and if he has I don't give a fuck term, what the fuck does his first term look like?
Well, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's just something to, like I said, if you like the guy, fantastic. If you don't, and you're a centrist or a moderate who's weighing the decision, that should weigh heavy on your mind. Similar to what would Warren do or Biden do or anything else. Right. It's like, now you have 4 years of this president. And like with President Obama, I saw the 4 years and went, I don't like that. I'm not going to vote for him.
Right.
With President Trump, it's like, I don't like that. but do I really not like that, or do I really, really not like that? Like, where is it here? I think that's going to be something to really think about.
Well, and again, who the Democrat is plays a huge role in that.
It will,
You're not going to jump out of the Trump frying pan into the Bernie fire, right? You know, I mean,
everything's free.
Everything's free.
Yeah, I mean, that's like we were talking about earlier. I mean, that's the weirdest part about this is, like, let's say Bernie does jump ahead, like he just rides a wave and he's the nominee. It's like, I don't know what I'd do. I really have no idea. Like, I know that, like, logically, I know a lot of my friends are screaming at this, like, hey, fucking Bernie, you gotta go, you gotta do it. But at the same time, I'm like, but I don't like either of them. It's kind of like the last election. I know a lot of people went for Hillary because Trump was there and, like, Hillary had the name and first woman to president. That's wonderful. I didn't like her just in general. I didn't like policies. I didn't like her past. The only thing that she'd ever truly been elected to, in my mind, was as a Democratic senator from New York with a Clinton name.
Right.
Like, that was the only election that she won. And then, you know, she destabilized Libya. There was one thing that she worked out in the Middle East that was a peace accord. It was like, which is great.
Sure.
But
peace in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
hey, and don't worry about Jared Kushner. He's going to make sure that that's taken care of. Well, he's going to get peace in the Middle East taken care of.
That guy. Don't even get me started. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I would vote for a ham sandwich that had a D next to its name that was running for president. I mean, there's like zero chance that I am not voting for the Democrat.
Yeah.
Now, I do wish that, you know, it would be nice if if somebody would run against him. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen.
There are people that have threatened it, but they're quashed pretty quick.
Yeah, and the Republican Party has done shit to make sure that doesn't happen. You know, although I saw the other day, like 2 weeks ago, maybe it was, where Trump was apparently saying, like, yeah, maybe I don't do the debates. Yeah, you know,
if I have to go up against somebody smart.
Yeah, if I have to go up against somebody smart, maybe I don't do the debates. You know, like, so what do we make of it if he doesn't participate in the democratic process?
Well, I think that in that situation, he would lose more votes than he could ever recover if he didn't go into the debates.
I would think.
Yeah.
But who knows? You know?
Yeah. Well, and the Democrat would show up.
Oh, you better, especially if he is not there.
Yeah, if he's not there, the Democrat shows up. All of a sudden, you're giving the Democrat three times for 3 to 4 hours to talk about just everything they want to.
Which mostly is going to be about how you suck.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's, of course, you know, then I also sort of live in fear of, like, what happens if he does lose? What if he won't go?
Oh, see, I don't think that's a thing.
I don't know. I mean, people talked about that with Clinton.
Yeah.
Republicans talked about that with Obama. So there is a lot of, like, bullshit to it, you know what I mean? And under most circumstances, I would say this is bullshit.
He probably would
but
leave.
He's so fucking crazy.
Oh, yeah, but he'd write a book. He'd make
even
more money. Like he wouldn't have to do shit anymore.
I think he's not going to get the right to do shit because I think the Southern District of New York is going to arrest him about 5 minutes after he's left office.
Oh, man, that would be, like, you want to talk about.
This motherfucker has done some serious tax evading, and it is coming.
Oh, man. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to take a long look at what that would do as far as precedent and go, boy, if we do that.
I don't know, though. I have no doubt he's a criminal.
That's the thing that I honestly wonder, and this isn't me trying to defend Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form, but there is a huge part of me that hears something like that and goes, I don't know if he's, like, you'd almost have to say he has, like, just negligence.
Oh, yeah.
Like criminal negligence. I can't imagine he's smart enough to just go, here's the plan.
Well, which was something I was thinking, you know.
Like, he'll throw every CPA he's ever had under the bus.
Oh, yeah. But, you know, when you think about, like, the Mueller report, right, that basically boiled down to Trump tried several times to intervene in the investigation. Mm-hmm. He couldn't get any of his underlings to actually follow his orders, and therefore did not commit a crime.
Right.
And you're like, what the fuck? Like, he didn't commit a crime because he's too fucking stupid to commit a crime.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
with the thing with Zelensky, like, you know, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to, and then it seems like everybody who is actually in
is
the
he the
Ukraine,
guy that just walked out was like, nope.
Yeah, well, and then everybody who was in Ukraine, like basically, like our people in Ukraine, it sounds like basically came to him and were like, you can't do that. Yeah, you're gonna be, you're gonna be fucked if you try it. And so he once again didn't really commit a crime because he couldn't get anybody to go along with him. It's like at this point, I think he should be removed from office just because he cannot circumvent our laws. I mean, what a complete lack of leadership that you can't get your people to even break the law. Like, what is going on, America?
Well, and that to me is the strangest thing about the entire Mueller report is that he basically came out and said he didn't commit a crime because he tried to.
Right.
Like, wait, what? But if I tell somebody, and I love my wife, but if I told you, like, oh, what if you kill her? I think I'd probably go to jail.
Yeah, that's a crime, right? Yeah. You just saying to me, like, I'll give you $10. Like, that would be a crime.
Yeah.
Even if I'm like, oh, no.
No thanks.
You know? Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
hey, guys, this guy wants to kill his wife. Oh, okay. He's going to prison now.
Right.
Like, but he was just like, he trolled everybody. And again, like, that's the thing that's weird to me is it's like, did Mueller really look at that and say he didn't commit a crime? Or did he look at that and say, he didn't even know it was a crime,
right?
Therefore, he couldn't be held responsible for trying to commit a crime.
Which is interesting because that would be like the only person for whom that applies to,
right?
Right. I mean, like if he did the shit that he did and wasn't the president of the United States, he'd be in jail.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, but again, over and over again, it's like his incompetence saves him,
or his inability to have people do what he says.
Yeah.
I guess, incompetence works for that.
It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
It's like we're like living in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Well, it definitely feels like that.
Like, I don't understand. Like, what the hell has happened to us?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, and that's the weirdest. It will be strange when he does leave office, whether it's this coming year, or I guess technically next year, or 5 years from now, because it's hard for me to, like I said, it's hard for me to imagine that the Southern District of New York or anybody else would push that. And again, it's not because I don't think that there's a crime there. It's because I've got to imagine that at some point, even with Trump, who has polarized a lot of people, that they would go, this is still a former president of the United States, and we probably need to handle this with a little bit of care.
It's definitely going to be weird. I mean, it is interesting. I mean, I think
might just be like, dude, sign this paper, get the fuck out of public life.
I think everybody around him is going to end up in jail. Mm-hmm. Like, Rudy Giuliani is definitely headed to jail.
Oh, he's going to jail.
He's going to jail in such a major way.
God, he is the weirdest. We were watching, so we were at the lake with my parents, and my parents, as you know, are on the right.
Sure.
And I would say Nikki's left, and I'm pretty well center. Just I'm left and right on several issues, therefore.
Averages out.
Yeah. But
I'm a libertarian communist.
Exactly.
It makes me a moderate.
That would be an awesome way to run on a platform. But we're watching an interview, and it was like, one of the Sunday morning shows, and Rudy's on it. And the guy would ask him a question, and Rudy, for about 2 sentences, would be good answering the question, and then he'd just kind of go off.
Yeah,
it's like, Rudy, hey, come on back, Rudy, come back here to the conversation because you're off, you're in the deep end. Like, he'd just go off into the weeds, but not just with one question. Like, so what do you think about the president? Well, the president's a good guy. He's a pretty good business owner. The moon is up there. It's like, that's where you go. And you're just like, dude.
You're like, no,
that's not even political. It's not like the president's a good guy. We got to talk about the Democrats because they're not good. It's not like there was a line of reasoning.
Right. No.
He seriously would just start talking about fucking different states, and like we'd be on domestic policy and taxes, and he'd go into foreign policy and bombs.
It's just insane.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
It's just well, it's like it's interesting to me. It's like he works so well with Trump because it's like this just crossed my mind that like the thing that happened in Iraq where they storm our embassy and so the next day we assassinate somebody.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like, oh, I'm being impeached this week. Like literally the week of impeachment. So I'm going to send Rudy to the Ukraine to go investigate. It's like, what?
Dude.
Like, and Rudy Giuliani, you used to be
America's mayor?
like a thoughtful, logical guy. There was nothing that made you think like, oh, I think that's a real bad idea. Like,
well, I think Rudy's one of those guys though that I don't like. And again, like this is coming from watching a show that obviously has an agenda. But I watch John Oliver a lot. I watch two shows a lot, and that's John Oliver and I watch Bill Maher because I got to get my left in because I get enough right anyway.
Sure.
But I watch those two shows because it kind of brings you over to like, okay, here's some different ideas. And they both are very intelligent. They're very well versed. But he talks about like Rudy Giuliani was thoughtful in the guy for about 6 years.
Right.
After September 11th. And before that, he was batshit crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And
the whole thing about him marrying his cousin. And
marrying his cousin. Yeah. I mean, I remember watching when I was at Mizzou, and I had a very, I would say, like not leftist, not socialist, but I would say a very communist TA for my sociology class, which is famously a right-wing issue, or taught by right-wing people. But she made us watch this documentary on I think it was like the welfare. Rudy Giuliani tried to reform the welfare system in the state of New York to make people work like janitorial jobs and stuff like that the city needed for their welfare check.
Sure.
But the problem was that other people that were working those same jobs, like let's say a street sweeper, was getting paid $17 an hour, and these people were just working for their welfare payments.
Right.
So then it was like, well, what do we do? And he was like, well, you fucking work for it. And they screamed and shouted and everything else. And it was basically found like, no, you can't do that.
Right.
But at the same time, it was like, that was before September 11th.
Right.
And we didn't ever hear about that Rudy Giuliani. No, we didn't hear about any of the other cousin fucking issues. We just heard he was, America's mayor.
America's mayor.
Yeah, Times Person of the Year, all that kind of fun stuff. And then, he went into the debates, and Joe Biden destroyed him in one debate. I think, everybody in the Republican Party kind of pushed him aside anyway, but then Joe Biden was like, he says a noun, a verb in September 11th.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That's how he debates.
Right.
But yeah, so it was interesting though. But like lately, when he got hired onto the campaign, I was like, that might be a good move. He's Rudy Giuliani. He's got something behind him. And then you heard him speak once, and you're like,
oh god,
dude, he just talked about how pretty Ivanka was, and that wasn't even fucking brought up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Trump keeps saying weird shit about how pretty Ivanka is, and you know. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, they have a strange relationship.
It's real weird. That family is so friggin' weird.
He likes one of his daughters.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Tiffany looks like fun. I think Tiffany would be fun to hang out with.
Yeah, because she didn't hang around them.
That's right.
Hang around the
Tiffany's
zombies.
All right.
Yeah.
Tiffany and Marla Maples. We can grab a beer sometime, ladies.
I'm sure they have stories. No, but it's, you look at what's going to happen this year, and it's going to be insane. Like, it's going to be
it's going to be totally nuts.
Yeah, and the one thing that I see on the right, and I was trying to find a way to bring this up, but it was interesting to me because I saw this when the impeachment trial, like when they finally impeached him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he has been impeached on 2 counts. And all of my friends that were on the right, I thought brought up a very good point that the left, I think, needs to kind of work on, and that is there were no riots in the streets. There was no huge there was backlash online and stuff like that.
Oh, sure.
But there was no, people outside of Trump Tower, screaming, protesting, and outside of, every hotel that he's owned across the United States. There was no huge riot. There was no call to arms. It was like the only thing I see on the right that I don't like, and I think is bullshit, is these idiots that keep saying we're just going to start a revolution.
Right.
Dude, hey, no, we're not. Yeah. First of all, calm down.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember how you thought it was when California said they were going to secede?
Right.
No,
it's
stop
not
doing
that.
But it was just one of those things we have to kind of come to an understanding in this country that shit's going to fall certain ways, and you can't just punch people in the middle of the street.
Right. Right.
Yeah, because that's ridiculous.
Well, it's nice that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. For a change.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was just the right was taking it as a win. Yeah, he got impeached and we didn't do that. It's well, he was impeached.
Yeah, that's
that shouldn't be a win, but at the same time I understand because the left person lost and there were riots for not riots.
Right.
Probably some, but not all. But protests for 3 months.
Yeah, that was insane.
I just was like, you've got
It was ridiculous. I couldn't believe the overwhelming number of the rioters who didn't vote. All right, cool.
So did you vote for Hillary? Well, I didn't vote.
Cool, man.
Go home.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
Well, it's like, this.
If you're 16, that's fine, but
I'm, during my time as head of school at Kansas City Academy, I ran into this sort of like, ridiculous lefty shit.
Yeah.
And when we had Betsy DeVos come visit the school, I had a conversation with all of the students at once, and basically they were like, well, she can't come here because she's against everything that we stand for. And you're absolutely right. She is against everything that we stand for. That is 1,000% true.
Yep.
Now, she's going to come here and she's going to see the school.
Mm-hmm.
And that day, we can show her how a school functions when the kids use whatever bathroom they feel like using.
Yeah.
And that it's fine.
Yeah.
Everything is fine.
You go check that real quick.
Everything works every day. Yeah. And there's really nothing to worry about. And the problem that I ran into, and I had said to them, we can demonstrate that by what we do. Yeah. But we can also politely, respectfully tell her why we disagree.
Right.
She's going to meet with some of you in a small group, and you can tell her, I'm really concerned about X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you why I think that your approach is incorrect. Mm-hmm. And as long as you're polite and respectful, we can have that conversation.
And guess how much more she's going to respect you for that.
And maybe one of you can say something that's going to make her reconsider her ideas.
Yeah. How'd that go?
Well, they didn't. The students who were very concerned about this, instead of participating that day, decided to leave school, go across the street, and join the protest.
Wow.
Ceding their voice in this matter. And so they joined a protest of about 300 people that was across the street from the school that she never saw, that she never heard, that she probably knew was there.
Of course.
But
that's probably why she never saw or heard.
But never acknowledged.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. They literally gave up their power in that situation that day to protest, in a protest that didn't matter.
Yeah.
That barely made the local news. There were something like 35 reporters that day inside the building covering her visit who wanted to talk to the kids.
Yeah. And didn't have the chance.
They could have expressed those concerns to the media. No problem, right? Mm-hmm. It's amazing to me the way that we have sort of misunderstood democracy and how democracy functions and replaced the hard decisions, the hard conversations, the actual work of a democracy with just protesting.
Yeah.
Because that feels like you're doing something. Mm-hmm. And you're actually not doing anything.
When you're normally you're surrounded by an echo chamber.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's just everybody who feels the same way you do.
Well, that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Is to not ever... Because somewhere along the line in the last 20 years or so, the American people, at least, have forgotten that democracy is about compromise.
Yeah.
Right, and that's actually the real problem with, like, the Bernie bros, for example.
Yeah.
Like, I love the Bernie bros who refused to vote for Clinton because Bernie didn't win.
Right.
It's like, well, now you've got Trump, and that's on you. I have had an argument recently with somebody on Facebook about purity tests. And, because the AOC said something about, like, if you don't believe these things, then you're not a real Democrat and you shouldn't be running, and then in the last debate, somebody addressed that. I think it was Klobuchar, actually, who said, if we establish purity tests for what it is to be a Democrat, we might as well just give up now because we're not going to win.
Yeah.
We're not going to build a coalition
100%.
that can win. Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Libertarians have the same issue.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so this is the constant problem, right, among the Democrats is like, well, we don't want to be challenged with other ideas. Mm-hmm. We don't want to give an inch on our policies. We don't want to compromise, which is the same problem like the Tea Party people have, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
like the Tea Party is like almost non-existent at this point.
Right.
I think in large part because of an unwillingness to compromise that has basically allowed people to box them out.
Right.
Right. And so it's the same thing that's happening, but it's like that's not the purpose of like in a democracy. I believe A, you believe B, and at the end of the day, if we have enough discussion, hopefully we'll come to somewhere between A and B that we can both just kind of live with.
Exactly.
It's like I'm really pissed off about Democrats who've been going after Obama lately.
That is dumb.
I know that you don't appreciate Obama, but I think Obama was an amazing president.
I know, but he was also super popular.
You
don't go after him.
No, oh yeah, I don't know why they're doing that.
No,
it's just stupid,
I can disagree with him all day long, but if I
he's
were a
popular
Democrat,
dude.
I'd be like,
oh yeah, no, you
best guy ever.
Yourself in Obama.
Exactly.
And it's like they keep going back to Obamacare, and it's like, well, yeah, Obama woke up the morning that Obamacare was passed by Congress. He woke up that morning and was like, finally, I get to force Americans to buy insurance. This is what my entire life has been about.
Yeah.
Forcing you to buy insurance.
Yeah. And I was also so excited that it got dismantled in 50 different ways after it was passed.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like that wasn't his solution.
No.
Guys, that's not his end goal. His end goal was something closer to Medicare for all, right? But he couldn't get there.
Yeah.
So he went as far as he could to improve the system that he could get people to go along with him.
And he admitted that.
Yeah.
I would love it to look like this.
That's the way that it works.
Yeah.
You move it a little. You move the ball a little.
Give it to the next guy. He moves it further.
Yeah.
That's how it's played.
And it's like you guys are not like Bernie. It's funny. Like I think it was Biden said at one of the debates. Bernie, it's this is in your bill. And he said, "I know what's in the bill. I wrote the damn bill." Good moment for him, right? I wish that one of them up there had been like, "You can't pass the bill."
Yeah.
Because that's the truth. You can put whatever the hell you want to in your Medicare for all bill. It doesn't mean you can put fucking everybody gets a ferry. I mean, like, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It's never. It's
free popsicles on Thursday.
Yeah. It's great. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's never going to pass.
Yeah, it's never, ever, ever going to pass.
And guess what? Even if you wrote the perfect bill, it's probably not going to pass the way it looks now.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not ever going to look right. It'll start off
change.
as Medicare for all, and then the next thing you know, everybody's paying for Medicare but not getting it. Right?
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
So it's just you have the two ends of both of the political parties that are the loudest, definitely the loudest on Twitter, and they're the exact same damn people.
Yep.
They're certain that they're right. They're certain that the other side is wrong. They're unwilling to compromise. And I frankly don't know why we pay any attention to what either of them have to say. No. Because they're not helpful at all.
No. I think the reason that you hit on it earlier, I think the reason that we pay attention to it is because we see it on 24-hour news. Because apparently we need 24-hour news because days are things that happen all the time.
Yeah.
But it's one of those like if you're trying to get eyeballs on your station, what are you going to put on there? A calm, reasonable individual that's talking policy? No, you're going to get the most far-right Tea Partier. You're going to get Sarah Palin versus anyone on a college campus right now.
Right.
To be fair, equally intelligent.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're going to get those two on. They're going to argue about why, guns are great or guns are bad. And they're going to talk about transgenderism and how it can't possibly be morally okay or it's completely fine.
Right.
I saw something, and again, this is not something I've researched. I just saw an article. So grain of salt.
Sure.
But I think you see this more and more often as people who are on the left who talk about something like transgenderism. I think it was J.K. Rowling got attacked for this.
Yeah.
But she basically was, from my understanding, she was saying that in this circumstance, we have to look at this as genetically male, genetically female. And people went the fuck off on her. It was like, no. If you're a transgender woman, you're a woman. It's like, I really don't care. I really want you to be happy with your lifestyle.
Yes.
I really do.
Yeah.
But you have to give. I'll give you gender. You have to give a sex. That has to be a thing.
Yeah. Right. I mean, this is like, I don't understand why transgendered. Your gender identification should not have anything to do with the category you participate in athletic competitions.
Right.
And that's where I think this all started, because a transgendered woman, won a women's cycling competition.
Yeah.
By like a lot. Mm-hmm. And like, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Because they had testosterone pumped into their body every day since they were a fetus?
Yeah, exactly. And they're taller and leaner and, all
stronger.
The things that just,
on average, that's what
on average make men athletically more capable than women, right? So, I mean, it's like there's just some realities to some things.
The way you just did that is how I feel about it too. Like,
like, come on, help me out here.
I
people.
want to love you.
Like, I'm trying to be an ally, but fuck, man, you guys are making this shit hard.
Yeah. Well, the one that I've heard, and I listen to Joe Rogan a lot, as you know, but the one I've heard is the transgender woman, so born male, transitioned into female, but at a fairly advanced age for MMA, like at late 20s, early 30s. Yeah. Decided 2 years prior that they identified as female.
Sure.
So they went into fighting as not a skilled competitor.
Right.
Just a giant fucking transgender female. Yeah. And was not, and eventually I think this person lost.
Yeah.
To a female that was about the same size, but technically way better.
Yeah. Right.
Which, that's not competition. Duh. Of course.
Right.
But before that, it was all of these smaller women, and she just go in and beat the fuck out of them.
Right.
It's like, what? Oh, I can't be okay with that. And
no.
It's weird for me to hear somebody that is a progressive person or a liberal person talk about how they are okay with it, when really what that breaks down into is a genetic male.
Right.
A male at birth, not how they identify, a male at birth is beating up on a female.
Right. I mean, there's just, there is a biological reality.
Yeah.
To all of this that has somewhere along the lines been lost in the discussion, or it's almost as if you bring that up, you're somehow being
you're a terrible person. Yeah.
Right. But that's the actual
truth
reality of it.
That's science.
Especially if we're saying that gender is a social construct. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Which I think I agree with.
I'm fine with
right?
that. Yeah.
Like I think that's fine.
Yeah.
But sex is not a social construct. Sex is a biological reality.
Yeah.
And so to try to treat those as the same creates all sorts of other problems.
Yeah. Well, and especially, if you see like some people have gone to their doctor and said like, well, male or female, I'm female. Like, I need to know sex. And then it's like, well, I'm a female.
Right.
Were you born as female? I've always been. Like, I really need to know this because I can't prescribe you certain things if you were born as a man.
Right. Right.
I can't give you birth control if you don't have a uterus and ovaries.
Mrs. Garrison from South Park takes birth control, though.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. God. But it's, to me, again, getting back to what you were talking about, I think that's far end of the spectrum. I think that's 1%
totally
of people that give a shit.
It totally is. Yeah. And
I think most people are probably like you and me, where it's just like, I don't give a fuck what you do.
I don't give a flying fuck about any of that. Use whatever bathroom. I do not give a shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, and like this, like, great. But this does not in any way change the fundamental reality of your humanity.
Right.
Like at the end of the, like, are you a decent person?
Exactly.
Do you pay your taxes? Mm-hmm. Are you an asshole? Yeah. Like, these are the things that I really care about, right? Because we all have to function with each other in a society. And so, I get it that there is a reactionary element within our culture that is definitely not okay with this.
Right.
And I'm definitely not okay with them not being okay with it. Mm-hmm. But, like, this is not, we're talking like 1% of 1%.
Yeah.
And we spend an awful lot of time talking about it as a culture.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's terribly helpful.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not for any side.
No.
For no side is
no,
a positive.
Not.
Like, talking about it as somebody who is transgender, who truly believes that, the opposite of what you and I believe in, where it's like, you're born this, you're that sex, and you can be whatever gender you want, but that's what your chromosomes say you are.
Right.
But somebody who doesn't believe that probably doesn't give a shit about our opinion.
Well, right. I would hope they don't.
Yeah, exactly.
But
it's just interesting to, like you said, it's like we spend so much time on it, and I do, because it's just one of those things that to me is just strange. Like, I don't think the people are strange. I don't look at it as like this is I don't look at this as you are a mentally ill person. I don't see them in a negative way in any way, shape, or form.
Well, it's like the politics around it is strange.
Yeah, and it's just, I really do try to, like, kind of find the medium of it, or the middle of it, where it's just like, but we do, I think, as a society, we have to accept certain norms, or we have to accept certain things as fact.
Right.
Because they are facts.
Well, except that we don't anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facts are fiction, fiction's facts.
Right.
Yeah.
Alternative facts.
Like alternative exactly.
Facts.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly.
I mean, any, like, definitive reality is just totally up for grabs at this point, right? I mean, like, we can redefine anything the way that we want to.
Yeah.
It's like postmodernism run totally amok. And we don't live in reality anymore.
No, we don't at all.
I mean, if anything, Trump should be applauded for being able to zero in on that little thing, that little change within our culture, and exploiting it.
Yeah.
In a huge, significant way, because he's figured out, right, that he can just say
whatever he wants
to, and there's a group of people that are going to believe it.
Mm-hmm. Well, he knows there are going to be a group of people that react to it, and the positive thing about those individuals reacting negatively to it is he's going to have a bunch of people that come in and solidify
absolutely
him, because they're going to defend him.
But it's like, I have wondered, like, a little thought experiment, like, what if Democrats just stopped talking about him? What if we didn't react to his tweets?
Well, I think it'd be what Nancy Pelosi's doing, like you were talking about.
Oh, no,
earlier.
she's, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, what if we all Nancy Pelosi'd? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, if he doesn't have somebody to call him out, does anybody really care about the batshit crazy stuff he says?
I do think there are so many people that think that if you pushed him to a certain level, he'd just nuke Russia.
Oh no,
China.
I think that is true. I think
it's like, no, we need to keep talking about him, like, to keep him busy.
I mean, the one thing I've been able to say for him up to 3 years ago was he seemed to, like, really not want to use violence as a form of policy, but that went out the window yesterday.
Yeah.
Right, and like in the most grand way possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it is. It's worrisome. Like, what is this dude gonna get up to?
Yeah.
I
don't know. It's when I read your comment about the situation with the Kurds and pulling back on that border, it really was kind of a mind fuck for me, because I mean, have always been like, we shouldn't even be there.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, like, I don't know why this is going on.
Sure.
But then when you see the immediate, you see the immediate genocide of a people, and it's like, well, all we had to do was stay there.
That's it. That's all you had to do.
Like, we were in a safe zone. Nobody was shooting at us.
Like, 500 guys just hanging out in a base was all that was required.
Yeah, it's like, okay, and that caused thousands of deaths. Yeah, tens of thousands.
Yeah, tens of thousands. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And these people were, like, kind of just hanging out. It's like, no, they were our allies.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm okay with. Okay, I'm not a person that wants us to go to war all the time, but I'm okay with 500 dudes just hanging out to, like, keep tens of thousands of people safe.
Yeah,
that seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
that doesn't seem like empire building. That seems like protecting your ally.
Yeah, yeah.
But, whatever. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why we do such a shitty job of this.
Yeah.
Like,
what's what does it teach the next person?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, let's ally with the United States.
I don't know why any country trusts us at this point.
No.
I mean, we have a long history of doing shit like this.
Yeah.
Right? So like, why would you ever trust us? There's no reason to trust us.
Mm-hmm.
There's none.
Yeah.
None.
Super desperate for money.
Whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just totally use us. I mean, it's funny. Like you think about like Saudi Arabia, right?
Oh,
that, like on one hand is like, we're friends, we'll do, and then turns around and screws us every chance they get. It's like, no, you probably should be doing that because, like, one day
you're teaching us our lesson.
One day the oil economy is going to no longer exist, and you're going to be a very poor country. Mm-hmm. And do you know what we're going to do for you then? Nothing. A goddamn thing.
Yep.
Yeah, we will.
We're not going to molest that globe that you have, the little light up globe. We're not going to do anything like that.
No, we're doing nothing.
Yeah.
We will do absolutely nothing for you.
And I guess strategically it's also weird that we know, kind of knowing that cow is going to run dry at some point. We keep giving them stuff. Like, here are weapons.
Well, yeah. I mean, because eventually, right? I mean, like, what are we talking? Like, America will be weaned off of the vast majority. Like, the vast majority of our gas goes into our cars, right?
Right. I mean, there's still going to be oil and stuff for plastics and
right.
stuff.
But for the most part, we're talking about cars.
Yeah.
Right. So the combustible engine's going to be gone in like what? 25 years.
I mean,
20 years.
If we had the right administrations and the right Congress, it could be gone faster than that. Because all we
Sure.
have to do is give benefit to people who did it.
But I think private industry is going to just,
I hope so,
do that. Because that's clearly like where things are headed, right? And so you want to be the market leader. So you got to, like the first person who builds an economical electric car that can drive for 500 miles
and recharge itself in 30 minutes.
That you won.
Yeah,
you win the future, right?
Exactly.
So, and that changes everything. If I can buy that car for $18,000, I'm totally happy.
I mean,
right?
Shit, if you can buy that car for $60, you're still saving.
Yeah, I mean,
especially as expensive cars are now,
for sure. Yeah. But so it's like we're talking like another 20-25 years tops of you being a strategic ally. And I don't know why we're helping you out so much right now.
Yep.
Because especially when their economy no longer exists because of this commodity, what does that look like? What does stability in the Middle East look like in general?
What does Israel look like?
All right. Now, Israel will be okay because theirs is not an oil economy.
Yeah.
Except that
but if all of a sudden
they're surrounded by people who are not very friendly.
Yeah. Including Saudi Arabia.
Including Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. I mean, they're not friendly anyway. But
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I will say this. I think Saudi Arabia is very aggressively trying to, change their economic mix.
Yeah, they are.
Which is good.
They're trying to be the green country.
Right.
So they have more freaking sun than anybody.
They see what the future is, right?
Yeah,
so
amazing. Amazing that the country that grew rich on oil sees that renewables are the next thing, or the technology at least is the next thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I know that there are people out there right now who are listening to this who are wow, does anybody listen to this? But of the 12 people who listen to this, they're probably freaking. There's probably half of them that are freaking out about. I'm gonna drive a gas car till the day I die.
Yeah. Well,
you're not. You live much longer.
Yeah. Well, and I keep talking about the self-driving cars because I think that's to me the first one that comes out. It's like I don't care what it costs, I'm buying that thing.
Yeah, I would be interested in that.
Like, if you could find an electric car,
or even like driving though.
See, I guess hate
you
it.
can. Sometimes I like it.
Yeah,
not all the time.
No, it's one of those things. I had this debate with some guys at the Kansas City Club a couple of years back when it was still in existence.
Yeah,
and I was talking about. There are more than 12 people. Fuck off. But I was talking about this to the guys there, and they were bringing up the fact that it was the issue isn't going to be the technology necessarily because technically Mercedes-Benz actually has a working completely working model. Other companies do, but Mercedes has a nice one.
Yeah.
And they were like, but that's not the issue. The issue is case law. It's like they don't know what's going to happen the first time one of these things hits somebody.
Right. Well, one killed somebody a couple months ago, right? A Google car, I think it was.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Ran a dude over.
Yeah. So it's like, so what do we blame it on that? Is it going to be based on percentages and you just lost? What's going to be the thing here? And I was like, I understand that. My thing is going to be that I think case law is going to start really working against people that really like to continue to drive.
Oh, yeah.
When you
start bump into one of those.
You bump into one of those when they can show that it had nothing to do with the car.
Right.
When all of a sudden you choose to, DUI fines and jail time are going to skyrocket because people are going to be like, buy a fucking car, dumbass.
Friday night, I would enjoy that self-driving car.
Yeah.
Just get me home, Jeeves.
Yeah. Well, I talk about to Nikki, I was like, that does two things. One, it makes you safer because you're not like you can drink. And even if you have one drink and you just have that one really good one on an empty stomach and you're driving home, it's like you can feel a little like, ooh. I
drive better that way.
But let's say like you go out, you have a few. It's like you don't want to get an Uber because you don't want to leave your car. There, you just punch a button to get you home.
Right.
But the other thing for us is like, and if you think about it just out of leisure time, it's like we have a lake house. Like I could get that car, get the dogs in, get the kids in, get Nikki and I in, and hit a button. And we could have a whole day at the lake, have dinner at the lake, do all that kind of stuff, hit a button, everybody's out, it's driving us home, we pull in the garage, we just put everybody in bed.
Right. Yeah, no, I would love to not have to think about my half-hour commute to work every morning.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Read the paper.
Yeah.
Read the paper.
Read the paper. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, to me, that's one of those really interesting things, along with electric, that I keep harping on because I don't understand why people don't like renewable energy.
I don't either. It's
like
weird.
To me, it's a very strange. Like to me, if you're a nationalist, like hardcore right-wing nationalist,
it's like the most nationalist thing there is.
I know.
Right?
I don't get the commitment to oil. Like
I don't
when
know
people
either.
say like we're a net exporter. I had a guy that worked in the oil fields, and he brought up a good point. It's like we're a net exporter.
At the
moment,
moment,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when it's not when that's not the case,
because it won't be.
Like, why not have everything be relied upon in the footprint of our country?
Yeah.
Because that's a nationalist thought. It's like we no longer need you.
Right. It's kind of like, I guess that the thing is, it's like Trump in the coal mines, There's like these people that, think they're going to make their living forever off of coal mining.
No.
And he wants to play that up because he wants them to vote for him. But it's like the economics of this are just against you.
Oh, yeah.
Like this is never, ever, ever, ever going to be a thing again.
Never.
Ever.
Like, it is now because we haven't pushed against it.
It's now even just kind of,
Yeah.
because natural gas is so much cheaper.
Natural gas is so much cheaper, and you don't, like, it's just like everything else. Automation's killing it.
Right.
You can have a crew of like 10 guys go do surface mining on a mountain.
Right.
Get enough coal, a mountain's worth of coal basically in a couple of years. And that's way more efficient than digging tunnels underground.
Yeah.
So, do you want to have, 400 guys underground, or do you want to have 10 working a giant machine?
Right.
I think I know what's going to happen. 390 people are going to lose their job.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, I don't understand. It's like Trump's aversion to wind power. Like, what are you even talking about, dude? This does not cause cancer.
Did you see that? I can't remember if it was Channel 4 or Channel 9. I can't remember which networks those are. But they did this, I guess, in north of Kansas City. I can't remember what county it is. They are having and they compared it to the Hatfields and McCoys, which I think is hilarious. But apparently some company the county decided that they were going to really go for wind power.
Yeah.
Which I'm a fan of.
Sure.
And I'm the opposite of some of these people that you'll talk about because I honestly think they're beautiful. I think they're really cool.
I grew up in California. We, from being a little kid, we had them everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I love a big old field of wind turbines.
Yeah. It's really neat. And they don't take up much of a footprint. It's like as much of a footprint as a cell tower.
Right.
So anyway, there was this or not an article. There was a small documentary. It was like 40 minutes or 45 minutes, and they basically talked about the different sides up there. But some people have taken the energy company's money, and they've put as many as they can on their property, whether it's 1 or 20 or whatever. And then some people are pissed about it.
Oh,
and
I'm sure.
I'm talking like mad as can be. And they're as mad as can be on both sides.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they ruined my view, and they did this. And there was one lady that was talking about how she gets dizzy from them and everything, so she wants to move, but her husband doesn't, so it's causing problems there. And I was seriously just like, move.
Yeah.
I hate saying that because I don't want to sound, non-compassionate, but at the same time, I'm really not.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
My personal preference is absolutely solar power.
Oh yeah.
Solar is definitely my preference because I put a panel on the roof and I have power.
Right.
Congratulations. And if you do it right, then you can have power even when the power company goes out.
Right.
Because if you just have a net meter, just public service announcement, if you just have one of those companies that comes to you and sells you solar, and you just have a regular net meter, when the power goes off, you no longer have power.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah. So make sure that you get grid-assisted power.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, and actually the Tesla Powerwall does that.
Nice.
Yes. So good on them. But getting back to it, this whole county was like, yeah, we're going to make this a thing. And wind turbines are ridiculously energy efficient. They don't take much to maintain. Even though they're giant structures, they don't take much to maintain.
Right.
And they can power cities.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so you have to look at them. If you don't like it,
move.
Go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of those, I'm sorry. It
is what it is.
One, again, and I'm kind of biased because I do think that they're pretty. Like, I do like looking at them.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, this is kind of the future, guys. Like, if you want to put solar panels on your house and fund that as a county and help that as a county, do that.
Yeah.
But also be a part of your public government and know what's going on.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Because they passed it apparently under your nose, is what you say. Yeah. But a lot of people apparently fucking knew about it because they invested in it.
It is interesting the way that we sort of pretend like we don't know what's happening, and then all of a sudden we don't like an outcome. And it's like, well, we've been talking about that for 2 years, and you just it's not like the day that we all woke up and suddenly Paseo had been renamed MLK Boulevard. But
I've never been so like it's so tough to say that you're mad about that because it makes it sound like you're a terrible person.
It totally does.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not a terrible person.
And certainly that's the way the media portrayed it when we all voted to change it back.
Yeah.
The national media portrayed it as,
like, they just hate
racists.
Like, no. Yeah. It's the Paseo.
It's the Paseo. Yeah. Like, change another street's name.
I thought they should rename 39th.
Yeah, that would be great, right? Cuts across the entirety of the city, hits every community. Yeah. Right? It's a numbered street, so you're not changing. Yeah, I think 39th Street would be a perfect choice for that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's one straight street the whole way down.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, the one that I keep hearing them like, well, why don't we change the name of J.C. Nichols? And I was like, okay, I get what you're saying.
And it's not a bad idea.
I can't do it. I couldn't vote for it because I think that guy, I know he was bad. And I know he did a lot of bad things. But that guy also went to the city of Kansas City and was like, hey, can you help me build this thing and get a road down to it? And they were like, fuck you. And so he built his own road.
Right.
And then he built, one of the major reasons that people, love Kansas City. And then when the city then went, that's really cool. We're going to put our parking meters down there. He was like, they're all going to end up on the streets of City Hall tomorrow if you try.
Yeah. Yeah. J.C. Nichols was a terrible racist.
Yeah.
And so that certainly makes honoring his legacy problematic. However, if there is a single person who is responsible for present-day Kansas City, it's J.C. Nichols.
Yeah.
Because by having his development where it was and putting in place a lot of the aesthetic requirements for owning one of those homes, he created, his goal was to create a neighborhood that would still be the place to live in Kansas City in 100 years.
Yep.
It is.
Yep.
And that very singularly kept our actual city from becoming a totally abandoned waste space.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to know the difference between Kansas City and St. Louis, it's J.C. Nichols.
Yep.
And the Country Club District.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he's the person most responsible for modern Kansas City and the fact that this is an awesome place to live.
Yeah. And I will never deny the fact that he was a racist.
But there was a lot of baggage involved in that.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of, like, not good that comes about a lot of that. And so, yeah. So I see why they would want to change that street name. And I don't know that I necessarily disagree with them. I think the bigger problem that I have is Kansas City has its own unique civil rights history.
Very.
Why not honor some of those people? Rather than just honoring Martin Luther King again, because there is already things in the city that are named after him.
Of course.
So why not recognize the efforts of some other people locally.
Yeah.
You know, that seems like it would make more sense to me.
Yeah, I think we could rename a lot of streets named or numbered
Yeah.
with people that were influential in the city.
Yeah, we shouldn't go too crazy with the numbered streets, though, because
Because
those are
then it'll just get
excellent for
confusing.
navigation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I'm on
Yeah.
I'm on this in Hemingway.
Right.
I don't know where that is.
I don't know where that is. You're going to have to...
Is that like... So King is on K, and then Hemingway's a little bit before
that?
Yeah. Like, oh, now I have to know.
That must be the answer.
Uh-huh. But yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. But yeah, it's just one of those, like, that was... I understand the reason the people are quick to say the J.C. Nichols thing, but it just...
Yeah.
Like, I know he was bad, but... guys, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, this is literally the road that he built.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is true. Yeah. If you build your own road, I guess you should.
Yeah, and you make the city what the city is.
Right.
But yeah, I thought 39th. Somebody brought that up on like a post on Kansas City
Yeah,
Star. I was like, 39th Street would be perfect.
Such a great.
Yeah, runs through everything.
Yeah.
Brings all of it together.
Yeah.
And you can't really fuck it up. So.
Right. Or, you know, I mean, yeah, there's lots of really good options. Renaming the Paseo was not a good option.
No. You can't name that.
You can't. I mean, it's such a unique name with a unique history, and yeah, you can't rename that.
No.
Anything.
No.
You know, but
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if anything ever does get named, because I bet it doesn't happen.
Yeah, well,
I
I
bet
think
this just dies.
Well, I don't think there's a lot of trust right now between the council and the people with regard to that.
No, certainly not.
Like, hey, F you. You took away a street that we loved and gave it, the name of a great man.
Sure.
But
sure,
we have a lot of streets in this town. What the fuck is wrong with you? And you forced it down our throat.
You could have picked any number of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there are certainly other streets that are named after racists that we could change the name. You know?
Yeah.
There's plenty of things that we could change.
Well, any street named Jackson, probably.
Yeah, that would work. That would work. We must have a street named Jackson.
I'm
right?
sure.
I'm sure we've got one somewhere. I don't know where that is, but you know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
we could do it. Washington.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Pennsylvania. Rename Pennsylvania Street. Why do we have a Pennsylvania Street?
I don't know.
I do, but it doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter.
So it's the historian who knows everything.
Yeah, all the streets west of Main Street are named after things from the north.
Oh, interesting.
And all the streets east of Main Street for a while are named after trees that you would find in the south.
Gotcha. I knew they were trees, but I didn't want to say trees.
Yeah, trees.
Is it oak?
Yeah, oak. Yeah, it's you know, supposed to like pay homage to Kansas City's southern culture. Interesting. Or at least what was southern culture at the time, right?
Not that kind of southern culture.
Yeah. No. So you know, there's lots of streets that you could work with over there. Yeah, Pennsylvania Street. Let's change that name.
Yeah.
Runs right through Westport. It'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Everybody would love it.
Exactly. Awesome, man. I think we're ready.
Yeah.
Cool. You said you didn't want to talk for 3 hours, but we almost did.
Yeah, well, you know.
Well, you said almost 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I'm getting out of here early.
And we're going to see each other tonight.
Woo!
And me and my big drinking.
Woo! Oh, yeah, that'll be interesting. I never watched you not drink.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think it'll work.
That's probably why I'm not drinking.